It's a long, tough day here. We lost 4 good men.
No. 27 men died. 4 American soldiers and 23 Taliban soldiers. You said that 4 soldiers die and it makes you sad. But you said when Taliban soldiers die, it does not make you sad. I asked Base Commander David Hawkins to make it make sense.
The last thing we resort to is hurting anyone. But you have to understand, it's our job to keep the American people safe from our enemies. And sometimes that includes...
So if you kill your enemies at your job, it is not sad.
Well...
What if I killed my enemy Ryan at my job? It would not be sad?
No, you shouldn't do that.
But he is rude to me. He steals my yogurts. He makes fun of the way I talk.
Look, only soldiers can kill without getting in trouble.
Okay. Are you going to kill Ryan?
No.
It does not make sense.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. You can call in with whatever is on your mind. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori, and Nikki.
And we already have a caller, so I'm going to go straight to the phones. We have Alu here in New Hampshire on the line. Alu, what's on your mind?
Hi, what is on my mind is I want to respond to a great debate that's very important that Richie Rich and a few others and Dave Ridley got into a few nights ago. I'm not sure if you guys listened, but pretty much Dave Ridley and Richie Rich got into a heated argument about nuclear weapons. And Dave Ridley, who, from the Ridley Report, a big, long-time, amazing New Hampshire liberty and peace activist and independence activist, even though he's a voluntarist, I believe, he believes that nuclear weapons should not be legal, and he indicated he would support government force being used against those who had nuclear weapons because they're so dangerous and they have no legitimate use.
I don't know if he specifically said government force, but he definitely said force of some kind. So I guess that would mean, like, in the absence of the state, like, for, like, local people getting together to use force to remove the nuclear weapons, like, assuming, like, for the greater good or to, you know, to keep them out of the wrong hands, so to speak. And, of course, Richie Rich did not like that, and, you know.
So I think that they both kind of did not address what the primary issue is, which is there a real, clear, present danger to others? And we actually, on libertyblock.com, we wrote an article. Mike Sanello, I believe, primarily wrote the article years ago, and I'll send it to you guys. But pretty much what it said was, yes, obviously the Second Amendment and natural rights includes the natural right to own anything, including nuclear weapons. Now, practically speaking, on a practical level, forget, you know, the Constitution and laws and principle, practically speaking, no human can get a weapon because it'll cost, the nuclear weapon would cost you, I believe, billions, decades of research from like dozens or hundreds or thousands of PhD scientists with, you know, unbelievable amounts of training. That's why, like, Dave Ridley indicated that like states could acquire them and people couldn't, but they didn't really mention. Mike Sanello, who's very smart, went into it. The amount of like what you would need, it's not like an AR-15. You would need like tremendous facilities and development and decades of hundreds of PhD scientists and, you know, I think like billions of dollars to get it. Now, on principle, I would support banning, you know, criminalizing nuclear weapons only if it was dangerous to others. And by that, I mean radiological material. I'm not an expert in radioactive plutonium, but the basics is some materials are so radioactive that even kept in your house through the walls, it will kill your neighbors. So if your neighbor is dying or at real risk of dying just by you owning it, it's not like an AR-15. I can own an AR in my house, and I do, and it's not killing my neighbor. But the nuclear material, if you don't have, like, I don't know, a 10-foot steel wall or whatever box, it will literally kill your neighbors. Then I can understand using force against the person because they violate.
Because think about what's needed to contain, like in the case of like a nuclear power plant, all that is required to contain that nuclear, whatever it is, material. I mean, I'm assuming the average person wouldn't have access to that.
Yeah.
So I do understand that.
Well, what
and I
about
agree
a
with
group
you,
of
Alu.
people, Alu? What about if a group of people were getting together and they wanted to make a nuke and they just didn't even have very good practices? It was leaking out to their neighbor's house. What should be done then?
We treat it like we treat anything else. How do we treat smoking in someone's face, toxic gases, you're
Punching
putting VX gas in someone's face? That's a violation of the NAP. And there could be some gray area or some litigation to be had about how close does the smoke have to be to them to be a NAP violation. But I think Richie Rich and Dave were both kind of missing the primary issue of what the NAP is, as far as are you harming someone else? It's not about the nuclear weapon having no legitimate use. I was very disappointed to hear Dave Ridley say anything that doesn't have a legitimate use shouldn't be legal.
Well,
because,
one thing I can say,
they can argue anything does.
About the legitimate use thing is, well, do you agree that it has no legitimate use? Because I think I do.
I don't know what legitimate means, but also who decides?
Here's what legitimate means. Here's what I mean by that. Legitimate means I can never have the right to nuke a city because an entire city can never wrong me. A person can, a group of people can. The odds that an entire city are going to actually harm me and I need to defend myself against them, I don't think that's even possible.
I think another point...
On principle, you cannot ban a person from owning anything. I don't care how you think about that thing. I agree, obviously.
I don't think banning is the answer either, but I also see where Ridley is coming from with no legitimate use.
Yeah.
But does that mean I shouldn't be able to own... I should be able to own whatever I want, whether it has a legitimate use or not. So,
and I think that was part of Richie Rich's point was... I should be able to have this thing just because I want to, and if you try to take it from me because you don't want me to have it, that means you are aggressing on me, and I will do what I need to do to protect myself against you, because technically that is the person that is aggressing in this case. You know what I mean? Like just an innocent person with a nuclear weapon. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous because it's like, why would you, how would you, you know what I mean? But
yeah, but if you're not doing anything wrong.
No, yeah, if you're not
hurting anyone with it, then.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the point is you're not in the wrong until.
You've done something wrong.
You've done something wrong. Exactly. So just owning the thing isn't being in the wrong. Once you harm somebody with that thing,
right? That's thought crime territory.
Yeah. So, but it does get very. I mean,
I think before we have any debate, and again, Dave and Richie didn't do this. Before you have any debate, you have to clarify which realm you are arguing in. Is it constitutional? Is it practical? Or is it principled? On principle, yes. Practically speaking, yes, you shouldn't have a nuke. I would not recommend my friend get a nuke. But on principle, you have the right to own anything unless you hurt someone with it. Possession is not a crime. Only, an act of aggression is a crime. So constitutionally, yes, the Second Amendment says you can have nukes. So you have to, it depends which realm you're arguing in. Are you arguing what's a good idea to have and carry? Then I would say you shouldn't have a nuke. If you argue constitutionally or principledly, yes. So, and again, in my book, The Pocket Guide to Killing Gun Control, I try to go through those three arguments, and I explain the constitutional, principled, and practical argument because they're different realms.
Do you bring up nuclear weapons in your book specifically?
I believe I do mention it either in it or in an appendix to the book, and I say on principle yes, but practically no, and constitutionally yes. So there are different ways to argue it. Personally, I like the principled argument better because it doesn't depend on other factors like the Constitution or the practical statistics.
But when you say practically no, do you mean that? I mean, how would I stop someone I don't know in northern New Hampshire who has it in it's Richie Rich? He moved to northern New Hampshire. He's all alone. He didn't tell anyone his plans, and he's up there getting a nuke.
Yeah, practically, I don't have any good ideas for disarming them. No, but I mean not quite that practical. Practically speaking, would I recommend to my friend Bonnie to acquire a nuke? I would say no. That's not cool.
Yeah, so I think advice-wise, if you have one, I won't do anything about it. But I would, if somebody was asking my opinion, I'd probably advise that they don't do that.
And that comes to campaigns, campaigning against people making nukes, stuff like that. You can influence people.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. Yeah exactly. That's how normal people handle things, right? You don't necessarily have to create laws and regulations and ban things. You can just be like, hey, this is a dumb idea. And if you do it, we're going to
I
shun
think
you
another
or whatever.
important point, and I definitely mentioned this in the book, another important point is when people like statists say, how can you trust people like those crazy people like Nikki and Bonnie to have nuclear weapons? Just say, okay, currently, what's the current status quo? You always got to compare stuff to the status quo. Right now, people like Biden and Xi Jinping and Putin and stuff have nukes. How much do you trust them? And everyone will admit they trust Biden and Trump and Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un and Putin less than they trust Bonnie and Nikki. Everyone in the world would agree to that. So
hopefully,
look at the status quo. I mean, like we don't trust them with the nuclear weapons, and that's who currently has them. And it's the same with all weapons. So it's the status quo. And right now, the most violent, evil, psychotic people have those weapons.
And if I were to guess, I would think that most people would prefer that no one had nuclear weapons, and at the very least that these evil politicians, dictators, definitely no one wants. I'm generalizing here, but I'm assuming the majority of the population of the world doesn't want Kim Jong-un to have access to nuclear weapons. You know what I mean?
Does he for sure? Do we know he does, or is that just something he said?
I don't know, and I don't trust anything, and I definitely don't trust when people say they have or don't have, and the disarmament crap and the deal, the Iran deal, and saying they're only going to develop or enrich certain amounts of plutonium and whatever other uranium. I don't trust any of this in any sense whatsoever for a millisecond. So if they say they're going to cut back by 30% every 2.5 years, the amount of nuclear material, blah, blah, enrichment and development, I don't care because I don't believe anyone in government. So, I'm not. That's why I don't get into the whole Iran nuclear deal of Obama, Trump, and Bush and Clinton and all that stuff. I don't trust anyone, not in Iran, not the right, left, Israel, Hamas, government, whatever, China, Russia, Iran, Hezbollah, United States government. I don't trust anyone. They're all liars.
Yeah.
So I could assume they all probably have nuclear weapons. I assume they're not going to slow down their development. That's BS. The Iran nuclear deal of Obama saying the deal says they promise not to develop more than a small amount over the next 20 years, and Trump was saying, oh, let's cut the deal up because maybe they will develop over 20 years or 25 years. And I'm like, dude, you can't trust any of them. The deal itself that everyone said was great. It said that the Iran themselves can inspect it, or you have to give them a massive notice of weeks or months before you inspect their facilities. So you give them time to, cover things up anyway. So the whole thing, and I don't trust the inspectors anyway. It's all a sham. It's all BS. I don't trust the disarmament crap in the agreements they've readily mentioned. There's a great thing. A lot of countries have agreed to not have nuclear weapons. Yeah, those countries that signed it already don't have nukes. So they don't, lose anything. And the countries that have nukes didn't even sign it. They didn't even pretend they're going to get rid of nukes.
Really? I didn't know that. I didn't realize that part of it. Yeah, so what's the point? I
think that's what they were saying, yeah.
I'm sure that there's enough already out there to destroy the world
absolutely.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So why are they even making more?
I'm sure just the United States alone has enough nuclear weapons to blow up
actually,
the entire
the other thing that I hadn't even popped in my brain yet is the fact that the United States is harming us and other countries by nuking at the rate of, since the 80s, about 1 nuke a week. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
testing them?
They test them, and it does add up, and it harms the environment and us in our lives. So now I think of it, it's that's happening right now, and nobody's yet trying to disarm them.
That was one of the things I kind of mentioned when they were having this debate on Sunday, because one of Richie Rich's points was, okay, well, if I have access to however many miles I need in the desert to test this thing, then I should be able to blow it up or whatever. And part of my point was, well, you don't actually know the consequences of that. You know what I mean? You don't know the effects of that. You don't know how it's going to affect other people. So, and it's a gray area, because since we don't have that knowledge, you should assume that the radiation going into the air and the sky probably is going to harm people.
Right, to think that it's not getting absorbed into rainwater and falling down elsewhere is silly.
A lot of the time they do it a mile up in the sky, or maybe not a whole mile, but
still
up in the sky,
wherever they're doing
and it will definitely come out of the rain.
Absolutely, yeah.
I used to live on a military base called Dugway Proving Grounds, and they didn't test nukes there, but they tested biological weapons. And kids I knew that lived there in the early 2000s, they remember the day they had to run inside because there was an alarm going off, and they saw birds falling from the sky.
It's like The Hills Have Eyes, where all those people are mutated and or maybe they were inbred, I forget, but I'm pretty sure inbred. Okay, but I'm sure there's some movie where that was a bad example because they're inbred and not mutated from nuclear weapons.
And also
but even Chernobyl, think about Chernobyl. I'm pretty sure that was just a nuclear power plant exploding.
Yeah, melting down or whatever.
The whole entire land within a certain radius was completely polluted, and it looks like it's snowing all the time just because.
Well, it's healthier now than it was before it exploded.
But still, no one lives
because
there.
no one lives there.
Because no one lives there. Yeah, that's probably true. But
the wilderness has taken it back over.
And the other thing is that happened at Dugway Proving Ground. It's still not a nuke, but it's just the same idea. The government using these crazy weapons and testing them. It can harm people without them literally dying in an explosion. I don't know what they tested, but 2,000 goats and cattle around Dugway Proving Ground died in the 90s, I think it was, if not like the 80s. And it was like all these farms that owned all this cattle, and the government was like, we are not taking responsibility, but we will pay you for all your goats. So they paid them for all of their, goats or whatever that died all at once.
We're not officially taking responsibility, but we will bribe you just so you don't make a big deal out of losing all of your cattle.
An NDA.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Probably.
And another, so the thing that Richie did mention, which I think has a good point, is torts, which is a civil lawsuit, for damages. So he said, after the fact, if I use it, you can use torts to be made whole as far as restitution and stuff. And I think that has some merit to that. Of course, with governments, like with Chernobyl, the government has sovereign immunity, which is from common law from the king. The king can't be sued because the judges are all, part of the king's government back from Britain. And the federal government, surprisingly, they kept that tradition going where you can't sue the government unless they allow you to sue them, which they almost never do. But Congress has passed a few laws where you can sue the government for certain things. But for the most part, you can't sue the government. Whereas if one of us dropped a nuke, at least those people could sue us if they could prove they were damaged, whereas like Chernobyl or Hiroshima and Nagasaki, whatever, they can't sue the federal government for that. Or even if they nuked us, we couldn't sue them because they are the government and they have absolute immunity. We cannot sue them. So that's another big thing.
Yeah.
Yep. The governments are definitely the most dangerous and worst people we want having nukes in their hands. And they're the ones that have it right now. So
it's scary, yeah.
I can't see how it could get any worse. And the other thing about it is the government has to really hoard wealth in an unnatural way. I feel like the average person who makes a lot of money isn't also gonna want to kill the whole world, It's like, I've made all this money, all I want to do with it is I just really think that you'd have to, there'd be such a small percentage of people that have even the ability to make a nuke because it's expensive, and then on top of that, how many of those are going to be psychopaths?
Yeah.
I feel like
wouldn't Bezos and Musk want to kill everyone in the world?
Yeah, Musk might. Musk would be able to if he wanted to right now. Probably, he could probably go get himself a private island or whatever and make nukes right now. He's a multi-billionaire.
I'd argue that.
It turns out that him and Bezos both enjoy having 7 billion potential customers. That's why they wouldn't kill him.
Right. What were you saying?
All the powerful people are psychopaths already.
Yeah,
it's kind of part of the job
maybe
description.
Now because they have to be in this cutthroat, step on people to get where they are type of position. But I feel like if we had, no governments, free markets, I don't think that every rich person would be like they are now. Musk might be.
I also don't think that Jeff Bezos is a supervillain though that would want to nuke the world. He's
don't know
probably
him.
a psycho and he's definitely a weirdo, but I don't think.
Well,
I mean, hopefully
not all
not.
psychopaths are violent.
Yeah. He gives him money.
That's the other thing. It's he
has incentive to not kill us all. So I guess that's cool.
I read something that said he makes every 13 seconds $1.7 million, which is the average person's earnings over a lifetime.
Whoa.
Well, that's intense.
That is crazy. And
what
it's
do you
just
do with that? You know what I mean?
Why
Buy
do
nukes,
these?
I guess?
It's too much money. How would you even spend it?
Why do these super, super rich people always end up getting with these creepy looking? Oh, I forgot that you like Grimes, but these creepy looking.
But she is creepy looking. No, that's true. Yeah, I
super
accept that.
Plastic surgery, gross. Jeff Bezos's wannabe cowboy girlfriend. She's gross, and
I've never seen her.
Why don't they just
before,
want to date a normal girl?
I don't know. I assumed Elon Musk was just so into technology that he wanted a techno android girlfriend. You know
I feel like
That's
she's
what I
just an
assumed.
ugly, super messed up looking face.
But who else
person.
is gonna let him name his kid the crazy stuff, the airplane name?
I think lots of people. He has a lot of money.
I was gonna say,
maybe.
she's just autistic.
Right.
She's not that special. She's just autistic. He could find a pretty cool, nice autistic girl and then name his kid Aeon 37000 or whatever. Sorry, Olu. Was that all you had to say about the nukes conversation?
Yeah, but before I go, I have to go in a second. But I wrote an article for Liberty Block late last night, or like 3 a.m. And there are 3 bills. One of them is bipartisan, but mostly Democrats, in the New Hampshire House that were heard today in the committees, actually, that would essentially ban all free speech, including possibly every meme, picture, post, video, and any other kind of content in the universe, as long as someone said they're objectionable or harmful to kids or don't have any redeeming qualities or literary or artistic value.
In New Hampshire?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So check out the article. Yeah, there are 3 bills. I think House Bills 1500, 1710, and 1226.
Where is it published again?
Correctly. LibertyBlock.com.
LibertyBlock.com.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, so very concerning bills. I think they were all smacked down pretty hard, so the committees will probably recommend killing them, but you should send an email and do remote testimony anyway to say you support free speech.
Yeah, absolutely.
So their hearings already happened?
Yes, they were all at noon and 1 today.
I didn't even hear about that. I'm surprised. Because I know I kind of only hear about health freedom stuff usually. That's like what piques my interest. So I know
Nikki,
there was
you don't read Liberty Block every day?
I do read LibertyBlock.com every day.
But you didn't read it since 3 a.m. this morning?
No.
So it's been almost all day. I can't understand.
Tonight. But yeah, there was one, I don't know if it was today or about circumcision where they were going to make it so Medicaid did not cover circumcision. So if you want to circumcise your kid, you have to pay for it out of pocket. And then the second one about circumcision was that the surgeons or the providers would have to give explicit, informed consent of all of the possible...
I saw that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of compelled speech saying they have to give a lot of notices and warnings to people. And I'm glad Bonnie and some other principled libertarians opposed it.
I agree with Alu on this. I think it's a bad bill. The second one, definitely. I hadn't heard about the first one or read it, but the second one that you mentioned... I don't like the idea of getting in between a doctor and their patient. I don't think that doctors should have to tell you anything before you get an abortion. I don't think doctors should have to tell... I think that if you want to choose a doctor that does that type of thing, you should research your doctor.
Most people don't research, though.
Informed consent is best practice.
I agree with that, yeah.
So,
and it's cosmetic surgery.
There should be doctors that are able to, put on their website, I'm all about informed consent, blah, blah, and whatever you want done, we're going to have this conversation.
But this isn't doctors. This is hospital policies, which, isn't really like a provider to patient relationship that is essentially most hospitals accept a lot of money from state and federal governments, so it is kind of not.
But that's still on the side of what should the government tell them what to do instead of being
they're not telling
let's get them
what to
less.
do. It's informed consent.
No, they're telling them that they have to do this. They're telling them you can't perform a circumcision unless you've done this.
But right now, doctors are lying to people and giving them the wrong information. I don't think. Whatever. People should have the right to lie if they want, but it's not best practice.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I agree. Informed consent is definitely a big issue for me. Obviously, being in medicine, but I think this one's into the territory of compelled speech, and that has to be the bigger issue. You can't compel anyone, and I get it. You got to tell them the risks, but you can't compel doctors. Like this bill said, the doctors have to give them a whole massive lecture about the risks and everything. It's compelled speech.
Well, thank you for the call, Lou. It's Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. More coming up. You can call in with whatever's on your mind.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. Dozens of people are dead after a Russian military plane crashed near the border with Ukraine. 65 captured Ukrainians were on board the aircraft heading to a prisoner exchange. Russia accuses Ukraine of shooting down the jet, which Kyiv hasn't denied. With more details from Moscow, Daria Bondarchuk reports.
The head of the Russian Parliament's Defense Committee, Kartapolov, said that Ukraine was informed about the route of the plane carrying prisoners of war. He said another jet with 80 more Ukrainian servicemen on board, which was flying after the downed plane, was turned around. Prisoner exchanges with Ukraine might be put on pause.
This as the head of the British Army wants the UK public to be ready to fight if war breaks out with Russia. Simon Gaetan's in London.
In a speech on Wednesday, General Sir Patrick Sanders called the current British population a pre-war generation in an ominous forecast. The outgoing head of the British Army took the opportunity to warn of the need to take essential steps to place society on a war footing as global tensions mount, saying that while regular armies start wars, citizen armies win them.
The UK's Ministry of Defence insists there are no plans for conscription. Elsewhere, the Iraqi government's strongly condemned US strikes targeting sites used by Iranian-backed militant groups in the region. The United States says its proportionate actions were in response to attacks against US and other international forces in Iraq and Syria. In Gaza, heavy fighting continues between the Israeli army and Hamas. 500,000 Palestinians have been ordered by Israeli troops to leave the southern city of Khan Yunis and move even further south, according to the United Nations. 9 people were killed and scores injured by a blast at a UN compound there on Wednesday. Almost 2 million Gazans have been displaced across the Strip since the start of the war. Weeks of mediation by Qatar and Egypt with US involvement have brought no breakthrough of a new ceasefire or a hostage release deal. Roughly 40 people have died in a fire that started in a basement of a shop in the Chinese city of Xinyu in the country's southeast, and 6 people have died in a plane crash in Canada's Northwest Territories. Lastly, US presidential hopeful Nikki Haley's vowing to press on with her campaign in the wake of a second consecutive loss to current frontrunner Donald Trump. The former UN ambassador and governor lost to the former president in New Hampshire in a primary vote, part of the process to pick the nominee for the Republican Party to take on Joe Biden for the White House, as Nick Harper explains.
It's all over here in New Hampshire, and in many ways it feels as if the Republican primary season is over as well. There is an air of inevitability that Donald Trump will now become the party's nominee after a big win in Iowa and now a second win in New Hampshire. His rival, Nikki Haley, says that she is not giving up. She says she is just getting started and intends to challenge Trump in the next big state contest in South Carolina in a month's time.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSM.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori, and Dingy.
And so in the last segment, we were talking to a caller named Alu, and we were discussing should people be allowed to own nukes? And I think that it's a really interesting conversation. I don't have a strong opinion.
That's the thing, and that's why I was very quiet on Sunday about it. Richie Rich was very heated. He kept bringing it up. He was kept dogging on Dave Ridley.
Luckily, I mean, I like that he has this stance, but he's extremely pro ownership all the time. And I agree with him when he's talking to Peakless Mountaineer.
Yeah.
Like, there was this whole argument, should Richie Rich be allowed to, hoard an area of land and just say, I want to nature preserve it? And Peakless Mountaineer was like, I should be allowed to come with guns and take it from you.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I don't like it either.
It's hard, and especially, I get emotional about things. So I try to stay very logical, which I'm pretty good at doing, but I feel like being on the show with Richie Rich is nice because it's like he is so principled and will be the contrarian. Even if it's not something he really believes in, he will play that role, and it makes for really good conversation and debate because it's even like what you guys were talking about. So right before the break, I was bringing up the circumcision bills, and Bonnie and I think Alu was kind of nearing your side too.
Oh yeah, me and Olo had talked about this. Yeah,
okay, so I was like, I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Yep.
But I was really glad that I even brought it up and that we had that conversation because it made me. I had never even thought of that, and it's sad. It's like I should think about stuff like that. Like, no, we shouldn't be forcing people or doctors or hospitals, whatever, to give informed consent because to me, like that's such a big thing in my practice that I'm like, no, everyone should be doing that. Even though everyone should be doing that, and I can hold that opinion, we shouldn't necessarily force providers to do it. So I do kind of see your side.
There was this whole conversation in a chat I'm in with Alu, and there were libertarians that were like, "Oh, of course this is good," and then they changed their minds because
and that's kind of how I don't know if I changed my. I mean, I still might support the bill even if it's not super principled.
And the first one sounds more interesting to me, like taking away government aid.
Yeah, like I don't want to pay for you to genitally mutilate your kid. That, you know what I mean? Like Medicaid, hello, no. But I will say, and this is me being emotional versus logical and principled, and I don't really care. Like, I'm still going to hold this opinion, at least for right now. The reason why I support both of the bills is because there are a ton, and I kind of hold a strong opinion on circumcision. I do, at the end of the day, believe it is the parent's right to do it, especially as like a doula and, you know, working in home birth and midwifery. Like I kind of mind my own business because it is like kind of, it's hard, but honestly, I do think that providers should kind of be forced to provide parents with this information because people don't research stuff. They just go with the norm and they're like mutilating their children without even knowing, like fully understanding all of the consequences because people will just do whatever.
Right.
People will give all the scheduled vaccines. They'll give the vitamin K. They'll give, you know, do the dumb eye ointment that doesn't even do anything besides like just, you know what I mean? Like they're doing all of these things just because they're saying, yes, whatever the doctor recommends. But if they were to have some sort of information on it, maybe they would make a truly informed decision that I would think would be better for their child. Again, it's not my kid, so it's not really my business, I guess. But
I agree with informed consent, but I don't think that they should be trying to sway people one way or the other.
Yeah,
they
like
should
it could
just
be
non-biased facts.
Yeah.
I don't think they should be forced into it either. Maybe like have flyers or something.
Yeah, but that's what they do in New Hampshire with the vaccinations. I don't know if this is a state law, but I've seen doctors at certain hospitals give like a big packet of like a bunch of information. I don't know if it's just the inserts. I actually have never read it. But they do I've seen them give it before. I don't know if it's required.
I know there was somewhere at some point, like with abortions, you were required to like sit and listen to a whole spiel about why you shouldn't get an abortion.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with that.
Me either.
Like if somebody wants one, then that's their business.
And it's like already hard enough. Like you don't need to like lay it thick on it. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, they should be informed of the risks and
the other thing is like, does it really do much? Like not just abortions, but any of these things if you are like, it's your religion and you are dead set on getting a circumcision, you're gonna do it. You're gonna be like waiting for them to finish talking and then be like, okay, yeah, I want to do it. Like,
yeah,
I don't really think that it would change much. And then like handing you the piles of paperwork, how many people have ever opened up a vaccine insert? Probably like not as many as people who have gotten the vaccines or gotten their kids vaccinated.
I feel like the people who are reading inserts
don't need the speech.
Yeah,
yeah, there's that. And then I feel like they're already open-minded enough to do their own research. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like people kind of are already committed to their decisions.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, as much as I am also, I can't, like, I don't have like this really strong opinion because it's a parental rights issue in my mind.
Right.
But I also think that circumcision is it just seems terrible. It seems like you took away a choice of a human being when they were a child of how they wanted their organ to be.
I mean,
and it's not necessary. It's not medically necessary.
It's cosmetic,
Cosmetic surgery.
It technically is genital mutilation, and Captain and I kind of had this debate weeks ago or months ago about whether or not it was child abuse, and he had a strongly held belief that it was child abuse. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue against that, especially if you've seen the procedure. Before I did any real research into it, well, actually, no, that's not true. I kind of already did some research into it and already had like an opinion that I wouldn't do it to my own kids. In nursing school, I witnessed a circumcision, and it was horrific. They literally tied the baby down to like a table, and it was really traumatizing for me. And
how long does it take?
It's pretty quick. It's not, but they use this weird contraption that's really scary. Like the whole thing, and it's traumatic. And they say like, oh, they don't feel it or they don't remember it, whatever.
They don't remember it.
They don't
But
remember
you
it
don't
in their
know
conscious
that.
brain.
Right.
Yeah.
They remember it in their bodies.
Right.
Years from birth to 3 years old are the most important developmental periods that creates your personality and like literally develops someone into who they are going to be. So you're going to tell me that, you know, mutilating your child in one of the most sensitive parts of his body, you're telling me that is not going to hold, like that residual pain and trauma isn't going to be held in their body? It absolutely is.
Well, and it's held in their mind too.
Yeah.
Trauma as a small child is going to affect you whether you remember it or not. You're going to be changed forever because of that trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, like nobody would argue that kids who are very young but their parent gets abused, like their dad and mom are fighting and their dad is beating their mom. Nobody would argue that doesn't affect them.
Right.
It does.
Because they don't remember it. It still does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you guys have heard about this. Have you guys heard about the trouble with the Boeing airplanes?
They just fall apart.
Yeah, I heard the Alaska Airlines one.
Yeah.
Where it was like they were only in the air for like 20 minutes maybe, and they already had like really serious
door
issues.
flew off.
Yes.
Or at least a window.
Something, yeah.
And I think it was like an escape door.
Flew off, yeah.
They were just they just happened to be lucky because it was an almost completely full flight, and there was just this one row, and I think it's like an emergency exit door was in this row. So if you were sitting at the window seat, you would be right next to this door. They were up in the air only like 10,000 feet, which they can go up to like 30,000 feet.
Yeah.
So luckily they hadn't really lifted up in the air yet. Well, this door just flew off, and it's like creating a suction, like a little kid's teddy bear, papers, whatever is flying
Sucked
out.
some kid's shirt off.
Oh my God.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, his mom was like holding on to him.
I
That's
can't
horrific.
I can't imagine
and you'd
that.
think I think it's standard procedure for them to check the entire aircraft.
You would think
before liftoff, but I guess not. I mean,
This is just something. It's like it wasn't open. It's just a manufacturer thing, from what I understand. And let's get into it. I think that it's so scary just to think about it. And me and Lori at least have talked about how flying is scary. Now I've just gotten way more scared. It says, this is from Al Jazeera. It says, poor quality control, race for profits behind Boeing's troubles. When an Alaska Airlines Boeing 737-9 made an emergency landing in Portland on January 5th following a door plug blowing out shortly after departure, alarm bells began to ring. You don't even need an alarm bell. Oh my God. For Boeing, this was another incident on its 737 MAX series. 737. And one that is, it simply could not afford to happen. Across the last decade, the trust in the manufacturer from the flying public has dropped significantly. Boeing's gap in market share with rival European aircraft manufacturer Airbus, a direct competitor, has widened considerably following fewer orders and deliveries per year.
Really? Because I feel like Boeing is like, if you take a flight, like you're going to be on a Boeing.
That's weird
It's like
that you
a
say that.
747 or whatever.
I don't know why, but I always see Airbus. Like, I don't choose specifically Airbus, but I feel like I'm always on an Airbus. But I don't know. I haven't flown that much.
Just today, the nose wheel of a Boeing fell off today.
What?
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Like the part where they land.
Oh,
and that
yeah, I
wheel
did hear
at the
about
front
that.
of the plane just fell off.
Oh my God. Yeah, I did see that on Twitter. It says Boeing's current position has been attributed to several factors, including poor quality control, a race to secure profits, and more. Analysts and former employees that Al Jazeera spoke to pinned the decline on the company's culture, which has created a schism between management and employees on the factory floor for some time. Wow. Why even do a job that people's lives are at risk if you're just like, oh, I hate the management so much? Like, quit. Get people who care.
They have to pay appropriately for that. That's a big problem.
Something to do with the...
Like, they don't want to pay for good employees, but they want good employees. You know?
Are they like outsourcing it to other countries?
I'm sure they're just underpaying the people that work there.
It says the 737 crisis being only the latest symptom of the continuing problem. Flight AS-1282 with service between Portland and Ontario departed on January 5th like any other scheduled flight. However, shortly after departure of the aircraft, a 737-9 from the MAX family suffered a I've never seen this word. Pressurization issue from the rear mid-cabin exit door plug separating. The aircraft departed Portland at 17:06, so 5 p.m., and reached a maximum altitude of 16,000 feet. And at 5:13, so what is that? 7 minutes later, with a descent beginning shortly after. All on board the aircraft escaped safely with minor injuries that were cleared by medical examiners. Dr. William Benzinger, an aviation medical examiner, told the Seattle Times that had this happened at cruising altitude, more than double the altitude of when the blowout occurred, the results might have been dramatically different. So, I don't know, people might have gotten sucked out or getting their eyeballs sucked out. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I know that it's, so the cabin's pressurized. So yeah, probably the vacuum, somebody might get sucked out, but I know that it's freezing too. When you lose pressure in the cabin, the temperature drops, and that's a big problem because people will pass out also.
Because,
and hypoxia from not having enough oxygen, and so you don't want your pilot passing out while you're flying.
Well, I don't even know why I watched this, but one time I watched this story about this girl who, she lived in somewhere in South America, and she got on board a really cheap flight with her mom, and they were flying, and all of a sudden the plane just basically fell apart, and she's falling while strapped to her seat. I can't even think about it, honestly. Well, one thing that happened was her eyeballs were so bruised she could barely see, and whenever I think about that, it just freaks me out so bad. But also, that's why I thought of would people's eyeballs get sucked out if it's just sucking?
I don't know.
It just really freaks me out.
Even just the normal pressure changes from flying, it hurts my face because I have
sinus.
I got my nose broken.
Oh, okay.
And so now it's all messed up, and that hurt. It literally hurts when they pressurize the cabin, pushes on my face, and I can feel it. Feels like someone's crushing me.
Oh my god!
So I can't imagine the depressurization totally from the cabin. That would be
at 30,000 feet.
Oh my, yeah, that would be awful.
Yeah.
That's just so scary. So here it just says the results might have been dramatically different. Didn't get into the gory details. That night, Alaska Airlines temporarily grounded its fleet of 65 737-9s, calling it a precautionary move. The next day, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, issued an emergency airworthiness directive that ensured 171 737-9s across multiple airlines with plug doors were grounded for inspections and possible maintenance. I wonder how often they are supposed to normally do that inspection or that maintenance.
I think they're supposed to do it before every flight. Aren't they supposed to inspect and maintain the airplane between every flight?
But like how deeply? Like there's probably just like
I would hope the whole thing, like a full-on inspection. I would hope.
I don't know. I don't know how long that takes, or like what things are like. Oh, you only need to inspect it once a week. I don't know if that's a thing at all. I'm just spitballing here. It says the National Transportation Safety Board has launched an investigation to determine why an exit door that is meant to be locked in place was able to blow out. Highlighting that it was not exclusively an American or Alaska Airlines problem. Alaska Airlines, and that probably sucks because their name is just getting Alaska Airlines, blah, blah, blah. But it's not really their fault, it's the Boeing company. So highlighting that it was not exclusively an Alaska Airlines problem, Alaska Airlines was the second airline to identify loose bolts in the inspection. Hours before, United Airlines became the first to identify loose bolts, discovering them on up to 5 737-9s according to the Air Current. The two airlines identifying quality issues dealt a new blow to Boeing. Boeing's CEO, Dave Calhoun, acknowledged mistakes that are made by the manufacturer and identified the incident as a quality escape when speaking to CNBC. Calhoun noted that this describes what was found in inspections, with the loose bolts and other issues being something that escaped from the manufacturing process. But it's like, okay, it was something that escaped from the manufacturing process, but how often are the people who own these planes and work at the airlines, how often are they supposed to be checking?
I would think very frequently.
Yeah.
You would think so.
I know someone who is an airplane mechanic. I should ask them.
Yeah, my brother is too in the Air Force, but it's not the same, I guess, as
Yeah, I guess
commercial.
it's not, civilian flights.
Yeah. It says, following Calhoun's comments, the FAA launched a formal investigation into Boeing's production practices and said it would look to determine if Boeing failed to ensure completed products conformed to its approved design and were in a condition for safe operation and compliance with FAA regulations.
Right, how many people does that have to go through before it gets to the intended buyer for all of that to be missed?
It seems like it'd probably be a lot because I know cars are that way.
Yeah, like I'm sure someone inspects them over and over again, like each part as
quality
it's being
control.
At each step.
Right, at each step somebody should be inspecting things. So
Yeah.
how many people had to have been like, meh, whatever.
It says Boeing is legally required to meet the safety standards laid out to them, and the FAA has expressed concerns about whether these are met on several occasions, even before the January 5th incident. On January 13th, Alaska Airlines announced its quality and audit team will do a thorough review of Boeing's quality and control systems. Alaska remains the only airline to announce a formal review of Boeing's internal processes. Wow. And here's the picture of the door that fell out. It's probably like 6 feet tall and like 5 feet wide. Or no, it's probably like 6 feet tall and like 4 feet wide. I don't know. It's pretty huge. I wonder where it landed. That's what I kept thinking about. Even like the other things that flew out, like you could probably kill someone.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because
imagine it landing on someone's car.
Yeah.
If you drop a penny from the Empire,
Yep,
the top of
that's
the
what I was
Empire
thinking.
State Building, it'll like go through someone's skull if it lands on them.
That's exactly
so
what I was
imagine,
thinking.
I mean,
So could the teddy bear do that?
probably.
From 16,000
I mean, it
feet?
would definitely kill somebody if it hit them. I mean, it
Really?
goes so fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
It
don't
would
know about a
achieve
teddy bear.
maximum velocity at that
Yeah.
point.
Even a
I
teddy
think
bear?
that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's heavier than a penny.
Well, I guess it depends on the teddy bear. That I'm
It depends
imagining.
on the teddy bear. Because
It
how
does.
much loft does it have?
I
if
mean,
it's like a
10,000
weighted teddy
feet?
bear. Well, everything has a maximum velocity. If you drop a feather from 10,000 feet, it's not going to reach the
That's
same
true.
speed. So it depends
That's
on
true.
the density of the teddy
Yeah,
bear.
what is
and, like,
the
what it's
maximum
made of.
velocity of the teddy bear?
The teddy bear
Yeah,
could
yeah.
totally have something plastic in it because I had this teddy bear with a little like a Velcro thing in the back, and then you could put a battery in it because it changed colors, and the feds ripped it open.
Yeah, so like if it's weighted, it's going to reach a much higher speed than like a stuffed one.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
It's just kind of a funny thought experiment. Internally, upper management across the last decade has prioritized delivering aircraft to customers as soon as possible. That sounds like the profit motive issue here. These targets laid out by senior executives at Boeing were deemed unrealistic by those working on the aircraft. Dang, it's like maybe you should work on or listen to those people. As a result, employees felt pressured to meet deadlines that were not possible without corners being cut. Oh my goodness, that's so bad. Per a now retired Boeing employee who declined to be named and who worked with the 737 MAX and was on the floor, the immense pressure affected staff morale and work quality. Overtime was a regular occurrence across all teams to get the planes in the air as soon as possible. On several occasions, and if you're like working overtime regularly, you're probably like tired working on these freaking planes.
Yeah.
On several occasions, the former employee worked 10 to 12-hour days across a multi-year period in the mid to late 2010s, longer than the typical time frame for his role of up to 8 hours. These overtime shifts were followed by lengthy weekend shifts occurring for month-long periods. Wait, so he never stopped working? He worked every single day? Before the latest quality lapses were identified, Boeing in December 2023 requested the inspection of 737 MAX aircraft for potential loose bolts in the rudder control system. This followed an unnamed international operator reporting loose bolts during scheduled maintenance and Boeing discovering an improperly tightened nut on an undelivered jet in the same month. So I'm not sure when this was, before the latest quality lapses. Oh, December 2023. So they had discovered this issue in some of their planes. Only December 2023. At that point, it's like, why not like put out a notification to everyone who owns one of your 737 Maxes and get them to check that?
Yeah, you think that'd be like any recall for a car.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Quality issues also appeared in August 2023 when Boeing found an issue involving Spirit Aerosystems, one of its key suppliers. These quality drops were traced back to holes on the aft pressure bulkhead that were improperly drilled as reported by the air current. Boeing's drop in quality has been attributed to several factors. For the 737 MAX, a race to compete with Airbus in their A320neo. Oh my god, what a name. It's like a Elon Musk child name. They saw this aircraft launched on a fuselage that analysts argued had reached its limitations. A culture already on the downturn only increased as the disconnect between staff on the floor and in the offices grew. And this is kind of like a conversation we were having with a caller last week where this guy was like, oh, I hate my bosses because, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but basically to summarize, he was like, I hate my bosses because I do all the work and they just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like what was happening at Boeing, and it actually impacted people's lives, and it could continue to impact people's lives if people don't pay more attention to the airplanes they own. 603-283-6160. Call in with whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
If you're looking for work, or even if you're not, here's an innocent mistake you really want to avoid. Never return calls before listening to your voicemail. Your wireless phone sends calls you didn't answer into voicemail, and it shows you phone numbers for calls you missed. Important. Don't call back callers you missed until you have first listened to your messages. Otherwise, you frustrate people who bothered to leave messages by asking them to repeat a message they just left as your voicemail greeting instructed them to. If you're a job applicant, this alone could be a deal killer. And even if you're not, there are few things you can convey to someone that are as fundamentally maddening as, I didn't hear you. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips for job seekers and everyone else, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone? you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection. You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. Dozens of people are dead after a Russian military plane crashed near the border with Ukraine. 65 captured Ukrainians were on board the aircraft heading to a prisoner exchange. Russia accuses Ukraine of shooting down the jet, which Kyiv hasn't denied. With more details from Moscow, Daria Bondarchuk reports.
The head of the Russian Parliament's Defense Committee, Kartapolov, said that Ukraine was informed about the route of the plane carrying prisoners of war. He said another jet with 80 more Ukrainian servicemen on board, which was flying after the downed plane, was turned around. Prisoner exchanges with Ukraine might be put on pause.
This as the head of the British Army wants the UK public to be ready to fight if war breaks out with Russia. Simon Gaetan's in London.
In a speech on Wednesday, General Sir Patrick Sanders called the current British population a pre-war generation in an ominous forecast. The outgoing head of the British Army took the opportunity to warn of the need to take essential steps to place society on a war footing as global tensions mount, saying that while regular armies start wars, citizen armies win them.
The UK's Ministry of Defence insists there are no plans for conscription. Elsewhere, the Iraqi government's strongly condemned US strikes targeting sites used by Iranian-backed militant groups in the region. The United States says its proportionate actions were in response to attacks against US and other international forces in Iraq and Syria. In Gaza, heavy fighting continues between the Israeli army and Hamas. 500,000 Palestinians have been ordered by Israeli troops to leave the southern city of Khan Yunis and move even further south, according to the United Nations. 9 people were killed and scores injured by a blast at a UN compound there on Wednesday. Almost 2 million Gazans have been displaced across the Strip since the start of the war. Weeks of mediation by Qatar and Egypt with US involvement have brought no breakthrough of a new ceasefire or a hostage release deal. Roughly 40 people have died in a fire that started in a basement of a shop in the Chinese city of Xinyu in the country's southeast, and 6 people have died in a plane crash in Canada's Northwest Territories. Lastly, US presidential hopeful Nikki Haley's vowing to press on with her campaign in the wake of a second consecutive loss to current frontrunner Donald Trump. The former UN ambassador and governor lost to the former president in New Hampshire in a primary vote, part of the process to pick the nominee for the Republican Party to take on Joe Biden for the White House, as Nick Harper explains.
It's all over here in New Hampshire, and in many ways it feels as if the Republican primary season is over as well. There is an air of inevitability that Donald Trump will now become the party's nominee after a big win in Iowa and now a second win in New Hampshire. His rival, Nikki Haley, says that she is not giving up. She says she is just getting started and intends to challenge Trump in the next big state contest in South Carolina in a month's time.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, thoughts about Benjamin Netanyahu's future as Prime Minister of Israel from one of his predecessors. Ehud Barak served in the post from 1999 until 2001, leading the country's Labour Party, diametrically opposed to Netanyahu's Likud. On the day Israel confirmed the loss of 24 soldiers in Gaza, its largest one-day death toll since the invasion of the territory began, in reprisals for the Hamas invasion of Israel on October the 7th, Mr. Barak says Netanyahu has to go.
80% of adult population in Israel believe that he is the main responsible for this blunder that never happened, such a terrible day in the history of the country since its establishment. And 70% of the adult population in Israel believe that he has to resign. So it means he totally lost the trust of the people. And Israel cannot be led and navigated through such a precarious and subtle decision-making challenges by a person who totally lost the trust of the people. So the only way is to remove him.
But there is no sign of Benjamin Netanyahu preparing voluntarily to depart office, although stresses are growing within his governing coalition as the crisis continues.
Our top stories again. Dozens of people are dead after a Russian military plane crashed near the border with Ukraine. 65 captured Ukrainians were on board the aircraft heading to a prisoner exchange. Russia accuses Ukraine of shooting down the jet, which Kyiv hasn't denied. And in the US, presidential hopeful Nikki Haley is vowing to press on with her campaign in the wake of a second consecutive loss to current frontrunner Donald Trump. She lost to the former president in New Hampshire in a primary vote, part of a process to pick the nominee for the Republican Party to take on Joe Biden for the White House. That's the latest Feature Story News. I'm Benji Hire in Washington.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish a TV show where I travel across this great nation, eating pork in every one of our 50 states. Join me on my cross-country odyssey as I make our forefathers proud, reveling in life, liberty, and the pursuit of pork.
You can really taste the cooked pork. This stuff is fantastic. I'm a big salt fan. Let's pork!
We're tasting prime pork dishes in every state in the union, and I couldn't be more excited for this once-in-a-lifetime tour. You're going to be right here with me, seeing everything I do and watching every pork I taste. I'm Jim Haggerty. You know me as the host of Today Now, but I've also eaten in a ton of restaurants. Now I'm heading out on the road. My mission? Find the best pork our country has to offer.
Watch Jim Haggerty's Porkin' Across America at youtube.com/The Onion.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160. That's the phone number for you to call. That's 603-283-6160. And I wanted to tell you that Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash, digital cash. With fees of less than a penny per transaction, Dash is made for spending. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol and in multi-crypto wallets. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. And with you in the studio tonight on Free Talk Live, it's me, Bonnie,
Lori,
and Nikki.
And Nikki was telling us about a really hilarious kind of, well, not hilarious in a serious way,
hilarious in a bad way.
Yeah.
Like
story.
shocking, almost.
Dystopian.
Yeah, very dystopian.
Yeah, really.
How did we get here? Anyways, so this is an article from Reason.com by Emma Kemp. And the title of the article is Man Sues Sunglass Hut After Faulty AI Facial Recognition Tech Leads to Wrongful Arrest.
And is it Sunglasses Hut's AI, or is it the fact that he was wearing the glasses?
No, I think it was their AI.
Oh, okay.
So Harvey Murphy was arrested in October 2022 for the armed burglary of a Houston area Sunglasses Hut store after a facial recognition device identified him as the burglar. The only problem? Murphy was in Sacramento, California at the time of the crime, thousands of miles away. Making matters worse, Murphy, now 61, says he was brutally sexually assaulted in jail just hours before he was set to be released after the charges against him were dropped.
Oh, no.
In a lawsuit filed last week, Murphy claims that his arrest was the result of gross negligence from the facial recognition company, and he demands $10 million in damages to compensate for his wrongful imprisonment.
I hope he gets it.
Hopefully. On January 22nd, 2022, 2 men entered a Sunglass Hut store in Houston, Texas, with one threatening the store employees with a gun and forcing them into the storeroom at the back of the business. The 2 intruders eventually left with the money in the store's cash register, as well as several pairs of sunglasses.
Wow.
Of course.
Honestly, I thought for some reason it was going to be... So a lot of times when you're buying a makeup online, it'll have this thing that
you can like
sucks.
try it on?
Yeah, it's like, it always sucks. It's like, oh, try on this shade. It's like, that is impossible. Anyways, they always suck.
Yeah.
But so they claim to use AI. Even Amazon has this for if you're buying like furniture, it'll be like, oh, we can show you what it would look like in your room. Oh, I don't know if that's necessarily AI, but I don't even know if the makeup things I'm talking about are AI.
Like the thing on Amazon, they also have like 3D tours for like Zillow. Like if you're like searching or shopping for real estate somehow, I don't know how this tech works, but they take the pictures from the listing and they can turn it into like a virtual tour.
Yeah, I think they have to do like panoramic pictures.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but that's what it seems
probably
like.
It seems like they
it's like the
would,
Google Maps walking around.
exactly.
Look.
Like they just make it 3D, even though it's really not.
But basing an arrest on facial recognition, you know how many people look like each other?
Yeah.
Tons.
Seriously.
Tons of
Like,
people. I see
that's
people
the
all the
thing.
time and are like, oh, you look just like so-and-so.
People
Especially,
joke about like, oh, I can unlock so-and-so's phone.
Right.
When they have the
Yeah.
facial recognition
Well,
thing.
and I mean, I'm sure if someone's robbing a store, they're gonna have something, pair of sunglasses, something on their face.
Even if they don't. Tons of people look like each other.
Yeah. No, I get that all the time that people are like, oh, you look just like my friend. You look just like my cousin. Yeah. Generic white girl with blonde hair.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't say
so if
you're
there's-
super generic, Nikki.
There's no...
But you do look like one of my
you.
friends.
If there's no
She has
other
brown eyes.
evidence other than facial recognition, and you're just going to get arrested because you look like somebody else that did
That's
something?
the thing. It's like you're gonna need more than that to like
I would hope.
put someone in prison. Oh my gosh.
But I'm glad it wasn't the type of AI I was thinking. I thought it was going to be like, I don't know, something that happened when he was trying on sunglasses online with the AI app on the website or something.
Yeah.
That'd be so stupid. That's why I laughed so hard about it.
According to the complaint, local police began investigating the crime as soon as they arrived on the scene. Soon after, Anthony Fledger, the head of loss prevention at, oh my gosh, that is a crazy word, at some Sunglasses Hut parent company, called the police and told them that the armed burglar had been identified. Apparently, facial recognition software had concluded that Harvey Murphy was the criminal.
Wow.
And that he had even been responsible for additional robberies of a different Houston area Sunglass Hut and a Macy's store.
Whoa. So this one person actually really did go rob more than one Sunglass Hut?
Somebody
That's so dumb.
did, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming it would be the same person that did it if AI picked him up.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if the cops were just like, you know, the detective was like, yeah, we just want to.
Oh, this is probably also him. Yeah.
Yeah, this is close enough.
Even if AI concluded something, the human beings using it should be like, okay, this is what it says, but we can't just go arrest the guy.
That's the thing. Like, you need to use all technology responsibly, especially if you're going to throw somebody in jail.
Right.
But cops don't care if you get raped in jail.
Have you ever read something written by AI?
Yeah, you
it's
can
terrible.
usually tell. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have any kind of flow like a human being would.
Yeah.
It's all nonsense.
Yeah.
So to think that the AI is not just like, he's white with 2 eyeballs and a mouth.
Yeah.
It's that guy.
Close enough.
You know?
And also, like, have you ever seen like the video quality of security cameras? Yeah. They're very poor.
That's
You know
another
what I mean?
thing that's why I didn't expect
pictures of people.
Yeah,
Also
yeah.
bad.
It's like why does he have an arm coming out of his forehead?
Right.
That's not right.
He's holding a cup out of his chest.
They don't have any fingers
or too many fingers.
That's why I didn't expect that this was going to be the way the AI was involved. It's like
Yeah.
you're using AI on CCTV.
So I wonder how long this guy was in jail. I don't know if it gets into it, but it happened in 2022 in the end of the year. So I don't know if... So obviously it takes a little bit for, you know, like the case, but I don't know
to actually
if
get to trial.
he was in jail the whole time and then they found him innocent. I don't know.
Does it say how they found him innocent? Like,
I don't know. Let's find out. So police then presented a photo lineup to one of the store employees who identified Murphy as the robber. However, The complaint alleges that the clerk had been prepped by the Sunglass Hut parent company, leading her to incorrectly identify Murphy.
Whoa.
Unbeknownst to Murphy, a warrant was issued for his arrest. In October 2022, Murphy, who had been living in California, returned to Texas for work. After attempting to renew his driver's license at a local DMV, he was arrested and booked into the Harris County Jail. Imagine going to renew your license and next thing you know, you're getting arrested.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
There's so many stories of people who they get pulled over just like not putting on their blinker or something like that.
Yeah,
and
something
then
dumb, and then like next thing they know, they're like, "You have a warrant out for your arrest."
That sucks.
I'm tasering you.
Mm-hmm.
According to the complaint, once Murphy learned he was being charged for the January 22nd, 2022 robbery, he informed his lawyer that he was in a different state at the time of the crime. Soon after, the district attorney agreed to drop the charges against Murphy. However, just hours before Murphy was set to be released, he says he was beaten and gang raped in a jail bathroom by 3 prisoners.
Oh my God.
According to Murphy's lawsuit, after being brutally attacked, his assailants threatened to kill him if he reported the crime.
So he was arrested and the charges were dropped, but he was in prison?
Yeah, I don't really understand. And that's what I didn't really understand about this is like...
Don't they usually hold you in like county jail?
Convicted? Oh, no, he was booked to the Harris County Jail. So I don't know if they were holding him.
Weird.
Because I guess, yeah, they wouldn't just...
They usually just like put you in a holding cell and then you're in like a barracks type room
or
with like all these bunks and stuff.
Or sometimes they'll like have somebody at like the police station and then if they meet bail, but I don't know if he was being held without bail. I don't know. I wonder. Might get into it a little bit more because that doesn't really make sense.
He might be held without bail if he's being charged with like, oh, you robbed a whole bunch of places.
Yeah.
A certain amount of money.
Or maybe their county jail is just set up like a prison. Maybe it's like a big county jail.
There's definitely
it is Houston, so I mean like that Texas area, like it would, I'm assuming it would be a big county jail, but I don't know.
There's also like even in Merrimack County Jail, there's one of those types that like you're talking about. They're just like open barracks.
Yeah.
It's like the creepiest thing I can imagine. I'd rather be in my own little cell.
It's wild too, because they'd have people in there like they're accused of shooting somebody and also somebody who's accused of stealing like Doritos from the store
it's like
for shoplifting.
mixing a bunch of people. And like once you're sentenced, obviously, like you're either in low, medium, max security.
Right, but before that, it's just...
You're just kind of with everybody.
Just thrown in together.
Murphy was released a few hours later, but in some ways, he never left the jail. The complaint writes, his time in jail will stay with him forever. Not an hour goes without Murphy reliving the brutal attack and rape. Worse than that, the attack left him with permanent injuries that he has to live with every day of his life.
Oh my God.
All of this happened to Murphy because the defendants relied on facial recognition technology that is known to be error-prone and faulty. This is far from the first time that facial recognition technology has led to wrongful arrests. In February 2022, a Detroit woman who was 8 months pregnant was falsely arrested for robbery and carjacking. That same year, an Atlanta man was falsely arrested for a series of thefts in Louisiana, a state the man has never been to. In November 2023, Miami police used facial recognition technology to arrest a homeless man who had refused to give his name to an officer. What companies like...
Well, wait, what? I don't get how that made any sense. It's like they used AI to arrest him. Like,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how they would. I don't know if they used a store camera or... they would have to, right? I don't know.
Body cam
but he
footage,
already
or
was...
maybe he already refused to give the name and like ran off, and then they found him with the AI and arrested him for that.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's bizarre anyway, that whole thing. If you refuse to give your name, it's against the law.
Yeah.
But what do you need to know anything for?
Yeah.
I don't need to tell you anything. And I won't.
It sucks.
What complaints like Sunglass Hut parent company and Macy's tell the public is that facial recognition systems can have near perfect accuracy, Murphy's suit states. What they do not tell the public is that near perfect accuracy only occurs in absolutely ideal conditions. in the real world, accuracy rates are much lower. Well, yeah.
And near perfect is not good enough when it comes to someone's freedom.
Someone in jail.
The thing about it is, according to due process, this should have never happened to this man. Forget about the AI thing. It should have never happened to this man because of the fact that he was just accused of something. If anything, the most you should allow in a free society with due process is taking him to the jail to get like process, like that they know who you are now.
Yeah.
But then you go, because it's like you should be a free person until you're proven guilty.
Innocent until proven guilty. So even if you're holding someone at the county jail, that is guilty until proven innocent.
That's punishment before you've been proven guilty.
Absolutely.
They do that to people for years.
Yep,
oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And in this case, it was more severe, even though it sounds like he was released rather immediately. Like, it doesn't sound like he was there for a very long time, but that's all it took for him to be attacked and gang raped, which I'm sure happens to tons of people. And then you have the cases of people who are being held without jail for like violent crimes, like murders and stuff like that. And then they're found innocent, and it's like, okay, well, I've been in jail for like the past year.
Yeah.
So what do you, and there's nothing, there's no way you can have that time back.
Right.
There's tons of things that can happen to you in jail in that time. I mean, I'm sure a ton of
your
people.
Job.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing. Even if you're found innocent, it still looks bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, you might lose your job.
Well, just for not being there.
Just
definitely lost your job.
for not being there.
Lost
exactly.
your place to live.
Yeah, like there's a ton of negative outcomes that come to that. And for some reason, a lot of people just feel like, oh, well, it's worth it because we can't have murderers on the loose. And it's another case of people just feeling like, oh, well, that would never happen to me. And oh, I follow the law, so it doesn't really matter. And this, that, and the other thing. But it's like, okay, this really shows how this could happen to anyone. This man wasn't even in the state. He probably had tons of people that could vouch for him.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was confused about. Did he take a Snapchat picture that said his like location, like anything?
But I'm sure he could have had anyone like he was there. I guess he doesn't.
Someone from work?
He lives in Sacramento, and he was only in Houston for work later on, I think. So I think that's what the article said. So it's like you would assume that he wouldn't be there robbing stores,
and also that they'd have proof of like the timeline that he got there, like his flights.
I mean, and that's the thing. There's so many ways to prove, especially nowadays in the age of technology, so many ways to prove that you were somewhere else. And then there was the case of the Atlanta man that was falsely arrested for a series of thefts in Louisiana, and he had never even been to Louisiana before. So it's like people are getting arrested for crimes in places that they've never been.
I just can't believe that
it's crazy.
Cops are already using AI. Like,
it seems like they shouldn't be allowed to.
They should not be allowed to.
I agree.
Like we already have
they shouldn't be allowed to do anything, but
there's already a debate on like should cops be able to use like license plate readers and stuff like that. How has there not been a debate before? They're just out there using AI.
They're just using it, yeah. Well, it seems like, you know how like in court, like lie detectors can't really be used
anymore
because there's ways to either, you know, if you're too nervous, it could be a false positive, vice versa. There are people who know how to like meditate and calm themselves to pass them.
Oh, they're just
not reliable. Or
they just don't work.
They're just not reliable.
Lie detectors are bunk science.
Yeah, like this isn't Maury. You know what I mean? Like this is
leave it on there. It
the
doesn't
criminal.
work.
Yeah,
it's just
maybe
not
that
real.
guy was telling the truth on Maury.
Maybe he wasn't the father.
But yeah, either way, it's like this shouldn't be able to be used at all because it's just faulty.
They didn't give the guy a DNA test. They just did a lie detector to see if he was the father. Like,
No,
you
I don't
think
think
that's
so.
Oh, okay.
I think they do the paternity tests on
Or-
Maury.
yeah.
But a
I've
lot
seen
of
those
them
since I
Maury,
was a
they're
kid.
like, have you been like they do the series of questions.
Right.
There was a condom found in the trash can. Was it yours?
Have you been sleeping with Geraldine's sister?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I
Lie
haven't seen that
detector
since I was a
determined
kid.
that was a lie. All that.
Well, Lori, you also had a really similar story, and I thought that was. I mean, it's actually really freaky. I can't remember now. Did yours involve AI? Yeah, it was actually DNA and AI. So you can go ahead and get into that story. I don't like that cops are using this already.
Yeah,
Okay,
it makes
so-
me feel icky.
This is from Wired.com. It says, cops used DNA to predict a suspect's face and tried to run facial recognition on it. Police around the U.S. say that they're justified to run DNA-generated 3D models of faces through facial recognition tools to help crack cold cases. Everyone but the cops think this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
In 2017, detectives working a cold case at the East Bay Regional Park District Police Department got an idea, one that might help them finally get a lead on the murder of Maria Jane Wildhofer. Officers had found Wildhofer dead and sexually assaulted at Berkeley, California Tilden Regional Park in 1990. Nearly 30 years later, the department sent genetic information collected at the crime scene to Parabon Nanolabs, a company that says it can turn DNA into a face. Parabon Nanolabs ran the suspect's DNA through its proprietary machine learning model. Soon, it provided the police department with something the detectives had never seen before, the face of a potential suspect generated using only crime scene evidence.
I wonder if there's any kind of studies on how accurate these are. Like, if they took mine, would it look just like me? Like,
I doubt it.
Yeah.
They can't even take a whole skull they find, and that's got DNA and the bone structure, and make it look like, a Jane Doe. You see those, and you're like, that. When they find out who it is, you're like, that kind of almost resembles the person somewhat.
Yeah.
They don't ever look right.
No.
even the drawings, like, done by humans are not that great.
Mm-mm.
Like, you describe someone to the drawer and they get drawn. It's never like perfect. Like, what's even the point of that?
And they've been using that for like ever. So it's kind of like,
I don't see how it's possible.
How
like,
are they?
If I tried to
using
describe
that?
you, not looking at you, like I hadn't seen you for a day, to anyone, the best drawer on earth, I really doubt it would look like you.
Well, and that's
like,
the thing too.
Or
It's
anyone.
like, what characteristics are we giving? Because usually what people say is they're like, oh, he has brown hair, he's about yay high, and he.
I could
is
not
maybe,
describe a
like,
face to be drawn.
Maybe they'll give like a weight or something, but it's like,
I feel
what
like-
other details are you going to come up with? Oh, he had a very prominent jawline, and his cheekbones were at this angle. Like, no one's going to be able to give that descriptive.
Like, someone I haven't seen in a while, I can't really picture. I guess I can picture like Mark's face.
But even like if you were looking at me right now and you're describing me, and then someone was drawing me that was flipped the other way and they didn't know what I looked like, like, how are you going to, like, what descriptive words are you using that they're going to draw a picture of?
It's like, even if I said someone has a prominent jawline, like you said, there's so many variations of ways that somebody can have a prominent jawline, and I wouldn't be able to put that into words. I think you'd have to be a really talented, like, facial expert or facial drawing expert or something
And imagine,
to be able to describe it.
Like, if it's in a situation where, like, you're a bank teller in the bank and like someone's robbing the bank, so you have like all this adrenaline and cortisol. It's like you're not.
Witness testimony is unreliable.
No, absolutely.
Eyewitness testimony,
Definitely.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
When they use it in all these cases, and then they'll find out that it was completely wrong.
Yeah.
Like, they'll say the wrong color car, the person didn't look the same, they were a different height, they were, had a beard,
It's
but they
happened to
didn't.
me during the raid on this studio where I live. I drove away. They told me I could leave. I went and got in my car and I drove away, and I was like, so they exploded the garage. I was like, yeah, the door on the garage is like bombed off. I think they bombed it. And then that never happened. I looked at it, but I was in like such a state of shock and stuff. I believed that it was exploded.
But that's the thing too. It's like when you're in that state of fight or flight, there's so many details. I mean, you're in survival mode at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
even not. People are just not that perceptive.
Yeah.
They just don't really pay attention to
and men are less
details that are
perceptive than
useful.
women on details. So like maybe a woman could get closer than a man. I can't even imagine Ian trying to describe even his best friend's face to be drawn.
Right.
Seriously. Like he if you there's this study where if you put men in a room and you're distracting them with something like, oh, fill out this questionnaire, and then you put women in a room and you distract them, and then you ask them just, okay, so what was sitting on this shelf? Women do way better than men. They're like, stuff? 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. What do you think about cops being allowed to use AI to just arrest people left and right? 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Free Talk Live.
I did all this construction. Well, I had the inspector come through, and he tells me it looks really good, but I think it looks better with Mr. Hamilton. I go, excuse me? He grabs a sledgehammer, and he just starts tearing the place apart. He says it'd be better with Mr. Hamilton. He was looking for payoff.
A $10 bill?
The guy was crazy. He went into my kitchen, and he asked for Mr. Lincoln.
I don't think I believe you.
My mother left me a porcelain doll collection that he just went to town on. And this is the problem with having to have inspections.
Thanks for the call, man. No, that was believable at the very first point.
The guy was asking for Mr. Hamilton.
How about Mr.
Alexander
Franklin?
Hamilton is on the front of a $10 bill. I mean, I'm like, holy crap, he's banging holes in the wall for a $10 bill.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. Dozens of people are dead after a Russian military plane crashed near the border with Ukraine. 65 captured Ukrainians were on board the aircraft heading to a prisoner exchange. Russia accuses Ukraine of shooting down the jet, which Kyiv hasn't denied. With more details from Moscow, Daria Bondarchuk reports.
The head of the Russian Parliament's Defense Committee, Kartapolov, said that Ukraine was informed about the route of the plane carrying prisoners of war. He said another jet with 80 more Ukrainian servicemen on board, which was flying after the downed plane, was turned around. Prisoner exchanges with Ukraine might be put on pause.
This as the head of the British Army wants the UK public to be ready to fight if war breaks out with Russia. Simon Gaetan's in London.
In a speech on Wednesday, General Sir Patrick Sanders called the current British population a pre-war generation in an ominous forecast. The outgoing head of the British Army took the opportunity to warn of the need to take essential steps to place society on a war footing as global tensions mount, saying that while regular armies start wars, citizen armies win them.
The UK's Ministry of Defence insists there are no plans for conscription. Elsewhere, the Iraqi government's strongly condemned US strikes targeting sites used by Iranian-backed militant groups in the region. The United States says its proportionate actions were in response to attacks against US and other international forces in Iraq and Syria. In Gaza, heavy fighting continues between the Israeli army and Hamas. 500,000 Palestinians have been ordered by Israeli troops to leave the southern city of Khan Yunis and move even further south, according to the United Nations. 9 people were killed and scores injured by a blast at a UN compound there on Wednesday. Almost 2 million Gazans have been displaced across the Strip since the start of the war. Weeks of mediation by Qatar and Egypt with US involvement have brought no breakthrough of a new ceasefire or a hostage release deal. Roughly 40 people have died in a fire that started in a basement of a shop in the Chinese city of Xinyu in the country's southeast, and 6 people have died in a plane crash in Canada's Northwest Territories. Lastly, US presidential hopeful Nikki Haley is vowing to press on with her campaign in the wake of a second consecutive loss to current frontrunner Donald Trump. The former UN ambassador and governor lost to the former president in New Hampshire in a primary vote, part of the process to pick the nominee for the Republican Party to take on Joe Biden for the White House, as Nick Harper explains.
It's all over here in New Hampshire, and in many ways it feels as if the Republican primary season is over as well. There is an air of inevitability that Donald Trump will now become the party's nominee after a big win in Iowa and now a second win in New Hampshire. His rival, Nikki Haley, says that she is not giving up. She says she is just getting started and intends to challenge Trump in the next big state contest in South Carolina in a month's time.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori, and Nikki.
And in the last segment, we were talking about cops using AI to arrest people. It shouldn't be legal. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a really bad idea, and I think more people should be bringing attention to this. I didn't even know they were doing this. AI is so new. It's like,
But
it's such a new thing.
The facial recognition thing has kind of been around for a while.
But
right?
Facial recognition, yeah, but this is like using AI to make a face.
This is different. Yeah.
Maybe AI. I don't know which part AI was related. Was it in the making the face or the facial recognition?
The making the face.
Which, like we mentioned, they can't even like get fingers right.
Right.
You know
And
what I
your
mean?
DNA doesn't say what you look like anyway.
No.
It gives like a general idea, like you're white and you have whatever color hair, whatever color eyes, but it's not going to say what your bone structure is or any of that.
But there's
fraternal twins, sorry, also have the same DNA, like identical twins? Okay.
Nope, only identical twins. Yeah.
Either way, it's like identical twins have the same DNA and they don't look exactly the same.
But there's so many factors to that, right? So like you have your like genetic makeup and your heritage and whatever. But then there's also like the foods you eat, like your weight.
So if you're a mouth breather, that changes the shape of your face.
Yeah, literally. Like seriously though, you know what I mean? If you had any significant injuries,
yeah, if you like
to your
lost teeth
face,
and then your like jaw is not,
or
that affects even like your eyeballs.
Yeah.
I was reading today just about
that's
how
weird. I actually didn't know that.
Well, if you don't have like really good teeth, then your eyeballs are more likely to, like when you're looking at something, look in on it, like your eyeballs are crossing in vision instead of looking straight forward.
So
and the more healthy way is straight forward. So
you get cross-eyed if you lose your teeth?
It's not really like being cross-eyed. It's like, I don't know if I'm doing it. It's like when you're looking away, your eyes would cross and look into the one point instead of both eyes looking straight forward. Apparently, both eyes looking straight forward is the healthier way. So, like, I mean, that's going to affect how you look.
And how do your teeth affect that?
Something about the internal, like your teeth.
Oh, because
even
it affects
change
your face structure.
Exactly, like your cheekbones being higher and stuff like that. That's why people chew mastic gum, not just for the eyes part, because I don't think it's like an attractiveness thing, but it'll still make you look different. But like,
that's what they say. Like, women and just in general, like people used to have more defined jawlines, but because people don't eat as much meat and like they don't have to, like people eat a lot of processed foods, so they're eating a lot of like soft foods, so they don't have to chew as well. And that has affected, like over generations, it has made people have less defined jawlines. Like they said, like
a weak jaw.
people used to be more attractive 200 years ago, which there's really no way for us to tell that.
I don't believe that. I feel like every generation.
I've seen the paintings.
People are just
they weren't
getting
that attractive.
I see the paintings of like Renaissance people. And I'm like, why have people gotten so much more attractive? It's weird.
I don't know.
I think the average person is just kind of average. Is what it is. And so, you know,
but they were ugly then, we're ugly now.
Right, yeah, kind of.
Maybe it's all just like makeup. Like everybody has access to not just really good makeup, but
like plastic surgery and stuff. Yeah, you can't trust anything.
That makes people ugly.
Like everybody gets Botox though. I hate generalizing. A lot of people that you wouldn't expect get Botox and other like minor cosmetic
I would get
surgeries.
Botox.
Would you?
When I'm older.
No
not right
way.
now. But I would not get filler ever.
I would never inject.
I guess it is different.
I would never inject botulism into my face.
Oh my god, that's a little scary way to say it.
That's what you're doing.
I wouldn't get like a facelift made of
Imagine if they hit a
Botox.
nerve and then you're paralyzed there forever.
So
it's crazy. Never.
There was a like trend on Instagram of like crunchy mom types that were like, I'm crunchy.
But they have Botox?
Yeah. They're like, we only drink raw milk. My kids don't eat any preservatives.
And I can't make facial expressions.
And, like we don't do any food dyes. But me on my way to my Botox appointment, and I was like, dude, you need to reassess your priorities.
Yeah, no way.
But
just moisturize and don't go out in the sun.
To each their own. I don't care. I don't care if I look old eventually.
Yeah, I don't really care. Like, I don't want to like look
I
young
want to be
forever.
like
That's
a
why
hot old lady.
I would
that just,
not get like
owns
a facelift. That's just freakish. I would never get that. It looks wrong every single time.
No, but I know. I think you might not notice it because I know people who get like a decent amount of like face work. And you can't really tell.
I feel like I would because
I'm going to show you a picture on the break and you can tell me if you can tell or not.
I watch plastic surgery videos and I've gotten so much better at telling. And I'm like, I'll be like talking to Ian, like before I went to jail, and be like, do you think this is what she was born looking like? And then I'll explain to him what she has done and show him like an old picture. And he just,
And
it's
Ian's
so
like,
annoying.
I don't care.
Men,
I can't imagine looking in the mirror after like extreme plastic surgery and seeing a different person.
Yeah.
That
Even
would be
after I
really
stopped
weird.
wearing makeup, I would like look at myself in the mirror and be like, oh yeah, that's what I really look like.
I didn't know you like
Wait till you
altogether
have
stopped
kids
wearing
and they're
makeup.
like, you look sick. I'm like, thanks.
Oh no.
There was one time that I didn't wear makeup to work, like when I was like a server, like whatever, a long time ago. And one of my coworkers was like, "Are you okay? Like you look really pale." And,
No, it's
and I'm
just
like,
my face.
"Nope, that's just what I look like without bronzer."
Whoa.
Thanks for noticing, though. I'm not, She's like, "You should go home."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, geez.
Oh my god, that's so bad.
Thanks."
That's so rude. But yeah, I think I would still get Botox just to not have like crazy like lines on my forehead.
These?
Just like
They're
that's
great.
just normal. That's just when you lift up your eyebrows. It's like if you just like naturally have that all the time. I don't want that. Something like really simple that I can fix. I would not get a like those people who literally basically are getting a facelift with Botox and then they can't talk.
It is kind of scary.
And they can't make
can't
or the
smile.
lip filler.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm so.
I would never get any filler. It can go directly to your lungs or your heart and kill you.
I didn't know that, but it
Yeah.
doesn't really surprise me.
I would never want to be like, I'm so happy. I'm so
Yeah.
angry. It's the same face.
Yeah.
Like, no. It's terrible.
And the other thing about it is just like I don't think that the filler ever looks better. It doesn't make logical sense. Like if you know that it's temporary and you like this fullness look, all you're doing is stretching out your skin, you're going to have
Why don't you
saggier
just get-
skin.
Yeah, why don't you
Just
just
hydrate.
get fat instead? Or hydrate, that's
Just
better.
hydrate yourself. Use
Yeah.
lotion and don't go in
Yeah.
the sun. That's
The
it.
lip
I'm gonna
filler, I
still
feel
go
like
in the sun.
sometimes
I
it
like
can
the
look
sun.
good.
Wear a hat.
But when people do too much, then it's like,
I think it's just all bad. Like I feel like
what's bad for you?
it always looks bad. Like
Yeah.
a little bit of lip filler isn't a thing. It's like your lips aren't supposed to look like that and it's obvious. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like that look. But
I think
there's no one that pulls it off.
Most plastic surgery, like, there's little things that you don't notice. Like Nikki said, like a slight nose job or like, a
Yeah.
little lift or whatever. But
Well, and they have like non-surgical plastic surgery now. I don't
yeah,
know
they
if
do
that's
like
what they call
dermaplaning
it.
and stuff.
But they'll even like take like strings. I don't know where they put the strings after, but I've seen this procedure because there's some people on social media who are very transparent about like what they get done and recovery and stuff like that. Which if you're gonna do it, like own it. But there was this one person, they were like tying threads in their face and then like tying them somewhere, but I don't know where they put them after.
I think
It was confusing, but it was like a non-surgical facelift.
So you're talking about this-
Non-surgical.
yeah, like
It's
the
like a straight. It
Asian
literally
eye
looks
strip
like
things.
Yeah, so like it's
It
like
looked
to
like
look like
thread.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying
it's like a little clear plastic tape thing that goes here, and then they have a string, and it like
Yeah.
hooks behind.
Okay, so like totally non-surgical. I thought you were talking about because
non-surgical.
the way more disturbing version of that to look like Bella Hadid, like your eyes are more
Yeah.
like fox eye, upturned at the ends.
Yeah.
Is it's also used as a string, and they actually go in there and they take like the muscles, like this is like surgery, like
Yeah.
they cut it open, they take the muscles at the end of your eyes, and they use a string and tie it up higher, and it's like I would never do that, but it's like that's inhuman looking. First of all, for somebody who isn't born looking at least a little bit like that, and like no one is born looking the way that like Bella Hadid's are like upturned. She's a supermodel that has that surgery.
It's weird.
Oh, she
Most
had
of
the
it-
surgery?
I don't know exactly if she had the string version of it or if there's like a different version, but they can
Yeah.
do that with. It's a string inside your
So she
face.
wasn't born looking like that?
She was not born
It's weird
looking like
there's-
that.
Okay.
It's weird that there's trendy
I'm gullible.
plastic surgery
Hmm.
to me.
Yeah.
Like Brazilian
make-
butt lifts and stuff. Like
Okay.
everybody
Yeah.
who gets those.
Well, and Brazilian butt lifts are hardcore. I don't know if you know anything about the recovery process. It is brutal. It's
I
several
bet.
months, and it's the number one surgery that you're most likely to die from.
Whoa.
and they look
So-
terrible.
I
Yeah.
watch, and it looks so fake too because they
Yeah.
take fat out of your waist, so their waist is super, super, super skinny, and then their butts are really, really big. And I don't think they always look terrible, but there was this one girl. I don't even know how this is not my typical thing I watch on YouTube, but it recommended it for me, and I was like, why not? I'll watch this 30-minute video on this girl's Brazilian butt lift experience. Just
That's
for,
a typical thing I watch.
for just for science, right? For education. I want to know about this. And she was like brutally honest. She showed everything, and she showed her in excruciating pain. I guess they have to do massages after.
For like lymphatic drainage.
Yep, of your abdomen, and then they like poke holes in you to like for the drainage.
Ew.
And you have to wear like a special like bodysuit thing to like suck all your fat in, or else you'll get lumpy.
Ew.
There's so much. Like she couldn't even go to the bathroom without her boyfriend helping her for weeks.
And it's like you don't feel
she was crying.
sexier for like several months out of your life.
She was just, and the worst part about this video is she was like skinny before and had a nice butt. Like she didn't even need to do it. She totally didn't need to do it.
People are getting like back alley Brazilian butt lifts and like getting weird things injected into them,
it's
dying.
Like already like such a high risk procedure. It's like you should probably find the best, most expensive place to go do this. But instead people are just like, I got my $5,000 butt lift. And it's like, I can tell.
It's like, I feel like the people who want to get it done are like really impulsive young people. They're like,
yes, this girl was like 19 years old in the video that I watched. I was like, honey,
like Jeffree Star,
your whole life, you know.
Jeffree Star is like a famous makeup artist person and like a MySpace scene guy and singer, and he got lip injections done when he was at least like 19 or 18 or something like that, when he wasn't really rich yet, but he just got some money, like exactly what you're saying, like, oh, I got my check and now what should I do? I'm gonna go get lip injections. And they did it they did it with a filler that didn't dissolve, so it was like all messed up for years until he finally like went and got it removed, which is like gonna cost more money to go get it removed. It's just like,
he had to wait until he was like actually rich to get it fixed. Ugh.
And it's like most of these people aren't going to end up ever actually rich like Jeffree Star. So
no. Ugh.
I really don't like that idea. The other thing about it is like I don't think it looks better at all. Like for the most part, I think it's almost always extremely obvious. And the other thing is like you're not fixing the root problem of like feeling better about yourself.
Yeah, like you need to do some soul searching for that. Like, and I feel like that's a good point too, is it's more important to feel okay and like comfortable in your body, because that's the thing, you know, I've tried to describe to some people, or explain to some people rather, that like really want plastic surgery and are always like, I need to be skinny, I need to be this, I need to be that, is like, if you get the plastic surgery, like you can get a tummy tuck. Easy. That's easy. But you will never be happy if you have like body dysmorphia or anything, or if you're just not happy in your own skin. You will never, like, that is something that no amount of plastic surgery can fix for you.
It's like being addicted to not living in the present moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you just accept what is right now, which is like my total theme right now, then, and you don't just accept it, but you enjoy it, then like you won't be constantly thinking like, I'll be happy when I'm famous. I'll be happy when I have a tummy tuck or whatever it is.
I'm old, so I can tell you that you're going to look totally different in 10 years anyway.
Well, and that's what I was thinking, like with the Brazilian butt lift 19-year-old, I'm like, are you going to have kids?
Yeah.
Are you going to like, you're going to change?
Your face even changes. Like you just look different.
Yeah, which is like, okay.
And that makes sense too, because like I see pictures of myself from high school and I just look like a different person. Like just a,
but
like
that's
my
like
face structure.
the cool, fun part about life.
Yeah.
You
But
know what I
imagine
mean?
going to get plastic surgery, paying all this money, and then 10 years you look different and you paid for all of that.
But that's the thing. It's like
and now
an
you're not happy
addiction.
again.
It's like, well, you need to go back and back.
Well, yeah, you
and
need
back.
to go back.
Never ends.
Well, I actually have a really related story. This is from the Wall Street Journal. It's actually a book review, which isn't typically something we talk about on Free Talk Live, but I think it's a really interesting topic for Girls Night, which is Wednesdays on Free Talk Live. Well, every other Wednesday. It says Filter World. That's the name of the book. It's a review, living for the gram. And when I first read that, I thought it meant like cocaine.
Oh, yeah. Nope.
It says the internet can sometimes seem like a manifestation of our desires. And that's
It kind of is.
Well, it's like not living in the present moment if you're just like, I feel like I'm like actually happy now because somebody liked my picture instead of being happy by yourself.
I also feel like people, obviously, like people aren't always real and raw on social media. Like they post like they're, especially like famous people that have a lot of followers or whatever, successful
Influencers.
Yeah, influencers.
Everything's filtered.
Yeah, everything's filtered, everything's photoshopped and edited. But also like even like I'm thinking of a lot of like the Crunchy Mom, like holistic homestead type people that I follow, they're not going to show you like the hard parts always. Like they're going to, you know what I mean? They're producing a certain style of content. And a lot of times it can just be like an unattainable thing. So like no matter what it is, whether it's like hot girls or, you know, like people living off grid, sometimes they're portraying something that might be unattainable or like give you a false impression.
Have you ever seen those hot girl like reveals where they're like, this is what my pictures look like on Instagram?
Yeah,
then they show like their actual body, like sitting down and like moving around and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think especially like in a world where like so many people are like mentally ill because of magazines and social media, it's like, thank you for showing everybody that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah, but like they're showing everybody that, but also they're posting these pictures that they're extremely posed, and it's like, why do you get? This is the other thing. It's the same thing as like the fillers. It's like like the idea. I love male attention. I'm not gonna lie. I love men so much, and when they're like, when a man says I'm pretty, it's like, yay, and everything. Like I'm a normal girl, like a normal straight girl at least. But if I was all fake, I would know in my heart that that's not like that I wasn't me that was pretty.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as like if you have this picture, you know you edited.
Yeah.
I've never been a face tuning editing like person for Instagram. And I can't imagine it. It's like you got likes, but it's not you.
Yeah.
You didn't get complimented.
Yeah,
this fake thing did.
I think their goal is money, though, in the end, for
Well,
that stuff.
Sometimes, but they're also normal, like, girls in college. Like, I wouldn't have believed it, but I went to my friend's birthday party, and he grew up really rich and had all these, like, friends that were in this, like, competitive world. Like, this girl, I'm not going to say her name, she literally was like, don't post any pictures until I Facetune them.
No.
And she's just a normal girl.
We're looking at you right now. Right?
Yeah, well, to her it was like the people at her college in
You ever see that
Texas.
episode of South Park?
Which one?
It's like all the girls Photoshop their pictures.
Yeah.
And the boys are just like looking at their phones at the pictures and not the realistic person standing in front of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's basically exactly what we're saying.
Yeah.
But probably going to change topics here because we have a caller on the line. Dave Ridley here in New Hampshire. Dave Ridley of the Ridley Report, or of just RidleyReport.com. What's on your mind?
My New Hampshire primary report.
Oh,
hear it.
yeah, we hadn't even talked about like Trump winning in New Hampshire. I just don't even think about that stuff.
I didn't even check to see who won any of this stuff. But I did go to 2 polling places in Keene just to see what happened. And I've been doing a little bit of this before that anyway, but just whenever I see a sign, anyone waving a sign for any candidate, I'm trying, if I can, I walk up to them and just ask them the same question of why should I vote for that candidate? Right?
Okay. Yep. And they're holding signs
so-
for them, so they should be able to answer, right?
Yeah. So the spoiler here is every single person who was carrying a sign that said anything other than Joe Biden was really nice, answered my questions, and told me why I should vote for whoever. Not one. Well, yeah, maybe one. The Biden people were almost uniformly hostile to even being filmed.
Yep. I saw a couple of your videos on this morning, and it made me laugh because there was this one where there were these 2 women standing next to each other, and you go up to them filming, and you said, hello, can you tell me, maybe you said, like, I'm Dave Ridley from RidleyReport.com. Can you tell me why I should vote for Joe Biden? Because that's the signs that they were holding. And this one woman put her hand up, like, to the other woman as if to say, stop, like, don't answer. She told the other woman who looked like she was, maybe her wheels were turning in her head and she was thinking of an answer. She was control freaked she had a control freak moment. Yeah. And she told the other lady, like, don't answer. And she's like, we're not interested. That was the craziest thing.
Yeah, that's not a very good, like, campaigning, right? Like, you're going to hold this sign, but someone's like, oh, can you just, like, explain to me? Like, she might have convinced him, but...
They just assume that Ridley is, like, not... Actually, one of them said this man. He said, I don't think that you're here to have an actual, like, conversation about this.
You're supposed to know that the only reason to vote for Biden is because he's not Trump.
You're supposed to.
And that should be good enough for you. How dare you even ask?
Yeah. What do you have to say about that, Ridley?
One of the ladies, I guess yesterday, first of all, she said, "Oh, now that your camera's off," she thought my camera was off, I guess, for some reason. I'm like, "Oh, it's not off. It's still running." She said, "Well, you need to turn it off before I ask you this question. Turn it off. Turn it off."
Top secret.
Well,
what was the top secret?
Okay, here's my question. Are you a free stater?
Oh,
I
didn't see that.
She gotcha.
I said, yes. And she said, "You should move to some other state." And she said, "You should be required." No, she didn't say you should be required. She said, "You didn't tell me you were a free stater before you started talking to me."
What the heck?
Am I legally required to do that?
Why didn't you inform me that you were a free stater? You should not talk to people without telling them you're a free stater.
That's so weird.
They're so brainwashed. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
Also, it's kind of like weird to tell someone to move. Like, Dave, just out of curiosity, how long have you lived in New Hampshire for?
Almost 20 years.
Exactly. So it's very strange to be like, you should move somewhere like this. I mean, it's like he's probably been here longer than she has.
Yeah,
Possibly.
possibly.
Not like that matters, but it's just, I don't know. It is.
It's an extremely weird thing. Like, imagine someone saying, like, "Go back to Massachusetts, Nikki."
Yeah, it's
that's
like
terrible.
I don't believe in borders, so
that's a really mean thing to say. Well, did you have anything else to add about your report, Dave?
Well, I did some other checking. You know how there's this concept, like where there's these war-torn countries, the UN will go in and send election monitors to make sure that the elections are free and fair. I like to think, well, that's our job. Like you and me, we can do that right here. And so whenever there's an election, and if it's practical, I just go and just walk into the polling place and see what happens to me while I'm running a camera. Because I figure a camera is a good litmus test. Like if they're messing with the camera and trying to get you to stop filming and stuff like that, generally speaking, that's an indicator that there's something else going wrong. Or that there's not transparency, there's not free and fair something or another. So just taking that camera in there and just seeing how it gets treated. So, in Winchester in 2020, they put me in a ghetto. Like, you're not allowed to film outside this little roped off area here. You're not allowed to film your own voting process. You can't take a picture of your ballot. You can't, you can't wear this hat. You can't wear that shirt. There's all that much. If there's so much First Amendment being interfered with, and we can assume that this maybe we can wonder if that's an indicator there may be some voting rights being interfered with too. Anyway, so this time I got a little bit better experience than I had in Winchester in 2020. So I went to inside to the polling places, the two Keene polling places, and they did try to restrict me, like, you shouldn't be, you can't film on the other side of this. Like, there's this small area where people vote. You can't go in there and film, basically.
Like, as if you're, going to point it at their ballots. I guess that's understandable, right?
Yeah, that is. And so it was like I had more range, in both of these Keene locations. And the Keene moderator at the second location, I found the moderator, and he answered all my questions, did an ambush interview with me, no problem and everything. So it was not too bad. Everybody seemed to be getting along at the polls. There was a Trump guy. He had to go to the bathroom or something, and so a Biden person held his sign for him. He was holding a Biden sign and a Trump sign at the same time, so the Trump guy could go use the restroom and come back to his sign. So that's one nice thing the Biden folks I did catch them doing.
That's pretty nice. Well, thank you for the report, Ridley. Anybody can go to ridleyreport.com and look that up on YouTube too if they want to find his videos. ridleyreport.com. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up, so don't go anywhere.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless crime spree.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. Dozens of people are dead after a Russian military plane crashed near the border with Ukraine. 65 captured Ukrainians were on board the aircraft heading to a prisoner exchange. Russia accuses Ukraine of shooting down the jet, which Kyiv hasn't denied. With more details from Moscow, Daria Bondarchuk reports.
The head of the Russian Parliament's Defense Committee, Kartapolov, said that Ukraine was informed about the route of the plane carrying prisoners of war. He said another jet with 80 more Ukrainian servicemen on board, which was flying after the downed plane, was turned around. Prisoner exchanges with Ukraine might be put on pause.
This as the head of the British Army wants the UK public to be ready to fight if war breaks out with Russia. Simon Gaetan's in London.
In a speech on Wednesday, General Sir Patrick Sanders called the current British population a pre-war generation in an ominous forecast. The outgoing head of the British Army took the opportunity to warn of the need to take essential steps to place society on a war footing as global tensions mount, saying that while regular armies start wars, citizen armies win them.
The UK's Ministry of Defence insists there are no plans for conscription. Elsewhere, the Iraqi government's strongly condemned US strikes targeting sites used by Iranian-backed militant groups in the region. The United States says its proportionate actions were in response to attacks against US and other international forces in Iraq and Syria. In Gaza, heavy fighting continues between the Israeli army and Hamas. 500,000 Palestinians have been ordered by Israeli troops to leave the southern city of Khan Yunis and move even further south, according to the United Nations. 9 people were killed and scores injured by a blast at a UN compound there on Wednesday. Almost 2 million Gazans have been displaced across the Strip since the start of the war. Weeks of mediation by Qatar and Egypt with US involvement have brought no breakthrough of a new ceasefire or a hostage release deal. Roughly 40 people have died in a fire that started in a basement of a shop in the Chinese city of Xinyu in the country's southeast, and 6 people have died in a plane crash in Canada's Northwest Territories. Lastly, US presidential hopeful Nikki Haley's vowing to press on with her campaign in the wake of a second consecutive loss to current frontrunner Donald Trump. The former UN ambassador and governor lost to the former president in New Hampshire in a primary vote, part of the process to pick the nominee for the Republican Party to take on Joe Biden for the White House, as Nick Harper explains.
It's all over here in New Hampshire, and in many ways it feels as if the Republican primary season is over as well. There is an air of inevitability that Donald Trump will now become the party's nominee after a big win in Iowa and now a second win in New Hampshire. His rival, Nikki Haley, says that she is not giving up. She says she is just getting started and intends to challenge Trump in the next big state contest in South Carolina in a month's time.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, thoughts about Benjamin Netanyahu's future as Prime Minister of Israel from one of his predecessors. Ehud Barak served in the post from 1999 until 2001, leading the country's Labour Party, diametrically opposed to Netanyahu's Likud. On the day Israel confirmed the loss of 24 soldiers in Gaza, its largest one-day death toll since the invasion of the territory began, in reprisals for the Hamas invasion invasion of Israel on October the 7th, Mr. Barak says Netanyahu has to go.
80% of adult population in Israel believe that he is the main responsible for this blunder that never happened. Such a terrible day in the history of the country since its establishment. And 70% of the adult population in Israel believe that he has to resign. So it means he totally lost the trust of the people. And Israel cannot be led and navigated through such a precarious and subtle decision-making challenges by a person who totally lost the trust of the people. So the only way is to remove him.
But there is no sign of Benjamin Netanyahu preparing voluntarily to depart office, although stresses are growing within his governing coalition as the crisis continues.
Our top stories again. Dozens of people are dead after a Russian military plane crashed near the border with Ukraine. 65 captured Ukrainians were on board the aircraft heading to a prisoner exchange. Russia accuses Ukraine of shooting down the jet, which Kyiv hasn't denied. And in the US, presidential hopeful Nikki Haley is vowing to press on with her campaign in the wake of a second consecutive loss to current frontrunner Donald Trump. She lost to the former president in New Hampshire in a primary vote, part of a process to pick the nominee for the Republican Party to take on Joe Biden for the White House. That's the latest. Feature Story News, I'm Benji Hire in Washington.
It's the Onion Radio News. Teen sex is linked to alcohol and drugs by the Center for Figuring Out Really Obvious Things. This is Doyle Redland reporting. An exhaustive 4-year, $23 million study of substance abuse and sexual habits of more than 2,500 American teens has confirmed that young people between the ages of 13 and 18 who drink and or use drugs are more likely to be sexually active. Dr. Gerald Eckersley is director of the Boston-based organization.
We found that this phenomenon also occurs among adults as well as every population everywhere in the world that has ever existed since the dawn of time.
The center has sent a teleprompter-ready press release of its findings to more than 400 local TV news affiliates across the U.S., along with stock video footage of beer displays and teens smoking and drinking at parties. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number to call here. That's 603-283-6160. We do have a caller on the line, but I wanted to thank Cornsbane, who's a gold level amplifier. Cornsbane is a gold level amplifier, which means that he's giving to the AMPS program, which you can go to amps.freetalklive.com if you would like to also join or learn more. That's amps.freetalklive.com. So thank you so much to Cornsbane for helping to advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. That's what AMP stands for. We really appreciate it. With you in the studio tonight, it's me, Bonnie,
Lori, and Nikki.
And we already have a caller on the line, Tom in New Hampshire. Tom, what's on your mind?
Well, this afternoon I was on my way to room 306 in the Legislative Office Building for a hearing on daylight saving time, ending daylight saving time, House Bill 1075. I was talking to some people in the building on my way up there, and one guy wearing a state representative name tag asked me if my first name was Tom, and I said, yes, I identified who I am. I don't know if he knew me from somewhere, but he said he heard me talk on Free Talk Live.
Wow.
A state representative, it's probably just as well with him that I didn't catch his name, but yes, you're reaching state representatives and other people out there who might as well be listening to Free Talk Live as anybody else.
Well, you didn't catch his name? Because it might have been,
I didn't catch his name.
One of the reps that Matt. Right, that's what I was thinking. It might have been a rep that we already know listens to us. But that's pretty cool.
It'd be cool if it was like some normie.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and anyway, I testified in support of the ending of daylight saving time and provided some maps that show where the time zone, where the 75th meridian is, and how the Legislative Office Building, you have a choice between being 13 minutes and 51 seconds slow on Eastern Standard Time or 46 minutes and 9 seconds fast. And I pretty much explained the facts of the situation. I mean, how, it looks like New Hampshire belongs in the Atlantic time zone at a glance of the time zone maps, but that's an illusion because the western border of the time zone is so far west. If you take a look at Michigan, Michigan actually belongs in the central time zone. And almost all of it, just like almost all of Maine, belongs in the eastern time zone. But almost all of Michigan is in Eastern time. Detroit belongs on the central time zone. And it's because the western border is so far west that it kind of looks like New Hampshire belongs in the next time zone over. So I explained that part to them. And then I made a mockery of the idea of why don't we just draw the boundary lines right where they belong? Okay, 82.5 degrees west, that's halfway between Eastern and Central Time, right smack dab through the city of Tampa, Florida. Sure, it gets better. Right halfway between 90 and 105 degrees west. How about go right smack dab through the heart of downtown Oklahoma City, missing the state capitol building by 2 blocks?
Are you saying like it's arbitrary, so it doesn't matter? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying they should draw the boundary lines where they belong, but along county lines and international borders for convenience, and not right smack dab through the middle of Oklahoma City, where the time zone line actually belongs. It would miss the state capitol building by 2 blocks. How would you like to have a time zone line running right through Concord, missing the state house by 2 blocks? So I put it in perspective that way.
Well, either way, it's like you're against this daylight savings bill. You're saying?
I'm in support of ending daylight saving time because daylight saving time is the wrong time for our longitude.
Yeah, but I think that we should definitely keep it the way it is in the spring. So we should keep daylight saving times and just stop changing it. Do you see what I'm saying?
But then it would be dark out when kids are going to school. And
forget those kids.
They should stop going to school.
Well,
yeah.
You mean in the morning, Tom?
It's not even like dark.
Anybody who says they can give you more daylight by tampering with your clock, well, I can sell you a cool weight loss program that involves tampering with your bathroom scale.
Yeah, but we don't want to tamper with the clocks.
Yeah, I don't want it to be moved back and forth.
When is it going to be dark for the kids going to school? In the morning? What time are they going to school that it's dark?
Yeah, that's a good point, because even in the winter, I woke up at 6:20 yesterday to go to Jane Shallen's hearing, and when I was in the bathroom, like doing my makeup and stuff, the sun was coming up. It wasn't like, pitch black out there. The kids aren't going to school at 5 a.m. So I think that's a bad argument. I don't think that it should be dark at 5 p.m. That's annoying.
And it's bad for everyone, for like mental health reasons.
It really
you know
is.
What I mean? Like,
I don't care if it's quote unquote natural.
The kids are depressed.
There's no such thing as a natural time. Time is a concept.
Yeah, time's not real. It doesn't matter anyways.
Yeah, people did not
but
use
it is
clocks.
annoying that they keep changing it. So if they could I don't really care, but just if they would stick to one time, that'd be like better.
I do care though. I would prefer the spring version, whatever that is.
I agree with you. I kind of forget, but I think I agree that the spring one feels more natural.
It's just in the summer, like it doesn't really matter. The sun's up a lot more, but in the winter, it would be at least like 6 p.m. by the time it started getting dark instead of like 5. I memean, there are a few days that's even earlier than that.
Yeah, like 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Oh, I hate it so much. Which is just like a winter problem.
If they'll come light out at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're on daylight saving time, you'll be pretending it's 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but I'm not awake, so I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not awake. And when I am awake at 6 a.m., I don't care about pretending that it's 7. I would way rather be I don't know what you're saying. Like I feel it doesn't change anything for me.
Most people are affected by daylight in the afternoon.
Yeah, more people are awake and doing stuff.
And that's the thing. A lot of people that have to wake up really early for work, it's going to be dark regardless. If you have to wake up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, it's just going to be dark.
And you're going to have more energy to pay attention driving. When it's 3 p.m. and it's dark, you're tired from working and you're driving home. This probably causes accidents.
And depression.
Yeah.
Makes people sad. We need as much vitamin D as we can get in New Hampshire, like New Hampshire winters,
Well, thank you for the call, Tom. And I understand. We mostly agree on this. We mostly agree. Like, it should not be changed around so arbitrarily. And thanks for going to the Bill and letting us know that state rep said that they listen to Free Talk Live. That's pretty cool. It was probably Matt Santonastasso, but still. Or maybe Jason Gerhard. I don't know. Anyways, in the last segment, we were talking about people who mess up their faces. The worst thing that they can do is get the buccal fat removal. Do you guys know what that is?
What's that?
This right here?
Yes. It's just the fat in your cheeks right here. And it looks...
You can't just use bronzer?
Yeah, seriously. It's like, because with bronzer,
just
it's like
contour.
It's super subtle. Like, that's all you want. You don't want...
So how do they remove...
Buccal... They cut your cheek open from the inside of your mouth.
Why?
And they pull it out with tweezers. It just comes right out.
Because
I've watched
You can't just do the... What is the thing? You, like, bite on it. That exercise tool, or they have a chin...
Stress.
They have a chin bar.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if those chin bar things
a chin
work.
bar thing, too, that I've seen, like, infomercials about. And they're
Me
like,
too.
I used to have a double chin.
I don't know why anybody
Now
wants
I
to
don't.
remove. Is it buccal or buccal?
I don't know. I guess I just said
buccal
buccal, but
buccal
I've probably
is,
just been reading
cheeks.
Yeah. Your buccal
Yeah, okay,
fat.
buccal fat, my bad. But still,
I don't know why
get
anybody wants to anyway. It makes you look hollow and
old. Yeah. It looks, it's young looking to have like a full face.
Mm-hmm.
So what the heck? Like,
heroin chic, like back in the 90s. All trends are cyclical. And so that's all coming back again, where everybody looked like they were sick and dying.
Yeah, like,
well, and then there's like a bunch of like, I remember in the early 2000s, I watched some clip of America's Next Top Model where they were like, yeah, you're the only plus sized model, and she's literally like a size 2. Like, she was skinny, and they were like, yeah, how does it feel to be plus sized? And she was like, I weigh 110 pounds.
That's so funny.
But yeah, but it was like totally like really bad, like the messaging for young girls in the early 2000s. And then because it got brought up because on some page I follow, they were like, you wonder why all of these girls in their 30s all had eating disorders.
Yeah, there
is because they were in the tabloids. I don't know if it was Jessica Simpson or somebody, but it was some just like hot chick that had curves. And they were like, she's so fat and disgusting, and she should, stop eating, and like really aggressively.
They do that to Britney Spears.
Yeah, just like really aggressively coming after all of these celebrities who are probably still way thinner than like the average population. So all of these girls were like, you know what I mean? It just kind of gets, it's just not.
It was really bad.
It's not good. Yeah, it was really, but now it's like too far in the other direction where it's like now like a little too. Not like, I think body positivity is like a good thing, but now it's like mukbangs with like morbidly obese people. And it's like, can't we just find like a healthy middle ground where we're like not super focused on body image, but it's more like nourishing your body and like being healthy and exercising? Like,
I have a problem with body positivity because it was not intended for people weighing 400 pounds to be like, this is totally fine.
Yeah.
It was intended for people who were like an amputee or, you know, somebody who was born with
like in a wheelchair
disability,
or something.
right, in a wheelchair, or born with like a missing limb or something like that to feel positive about their body, even though they were different.
Yeah.
Not for people to just be
so
like,
you're
I eat Burger King every day and that's
fine. I'm
you're
healthy.
in favor of wheelchair Barbie, but you're not in favor of morbidly obese Barbie.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, the other thing is they're like, well, just because I'm 600 pounds doesn't mean I'm not healthy.
Yes, it does.
It does.
It absolutely does.
Actually, it does.
Mm-hmm.
There was this
what
doctor.
are you eating that could ever
Get
make
up and
you that
run across the
fat?
room.
Yeah.
600-pound person. Get up and run across the room.
A tiger's chasing you. Act it out.
Right, yeah.
There's this
Carry all your
doctor.
groceries up the stairs in one go. Show it to me that you can do it.
I mean, you might not be able to do things as much as other people, and like that's one way to show it. But the other thing is just like you will die sooner.
Yeah, because you're not healthy.
Yep, it can't possibly be healthy.
Too skinny is also not healthy.
Yeah,
like there's a balance. They've done studies on like elderly people and people who are slightly overweight are healthier in the elderly population, because if they get sick or like they fall and break a hip, they can afford to lose a little bit of weight.
Yeah, that's
without
the thing.
dying.
I think like really thin people are are malnourished.
Very, very
sometimes.
thin, yeah.
So
really
and
thin
not
people.
only like eating disorders or restrictive eating, but like some people are just picky, I guess, and they're not really nourishing their bodies, or
they have medical issues.
Yeah.
And there are medical issues that can make you fat, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But like not 600-pound fat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
yeah,
thing.
seriously.
You're
that's the
just
thing.
kind of fat.
Because sometimes I'll see on Facebook where someone's like dogging on like someone that's 600 pounds. And then there's always that one girl that's like, what if they have a medical condition?
No,
a medical
it's
condition
obesity.
doesn't, like, it doesn't do that to you. Like if you have a thyroid imbalance or if you're on like a steroid medication, PCOS, like something like that, like you might be like 300 pounds maybe, or 250 or something.
I feel like 300
But
pounds is like...
That's pretty big.
You're
It
not
depends on how
gonna
tall you are, I
be-
guess.
Yeah, that too.
But,
but you're not going to be
But
like...
nobody is tall enough to be
once-
600 pounds.
Well,
Yeah,
once
yeah.
you're nearing
No
like...
one's like
she's
9.5
11
feet
tall.
400.
Yeah.
She's a giant, so it's fine.
She's a giant. You guys need to be nice. Well, but yeah, that I agree. It's like no one just accidentally gets 600 pounds. And
like you tried.
there's this thing that
it
people
takes
are
actual
saying.
effort.
People are calling it healthism. They're saying that like
like
instead of racism
or
yeah.
like ableism.
Yep, there's this
healthism.
doctor that works at Mount Sinai. Like, you know, she should be a really good doctor, right? Because it's like an expensive celebrity hospital, or where
But
the
she's
Kardashians
like
have their
their woke
babies.
doctor.
Yeah, and she made this video and it went viral where she was saying like, people need to stop telling people that if they're fat, they're unhealthy. I'm a doctor, and I know that your doctor should not be shaming you for being fat or just assuming you're unhealthy because you're fat.
I mean,
when I was a kid, so I've always been a little bit chunky, you know, and when I was a kid, I had this little Vietnamese doctor, and every time I go in, she'd be like, "You're too fat."
Yeah,
some weight. And I was like,
And that's-
okay.
Whoa.
But that's the thing, like in other cultures, especially like in a lot of Asian cultures, they'll just be like, "You're fat."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
why are you fat?
Right.
I'm glad
they're
my
just
mom-
very blunt about it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad my mom told me I was getting fat when I was, because I was like, it's like happened so gradually for one
Yeah.
thing, and for another thing, I was just like, whatever, like I just have bigger boobs now. No, but I was actually getting fat, and when I see like pictures of myself from back then, I'm like, I can't believe I didn't like notice I was getting fat. I was just like so used to being way underweight for so long. So I'm glad my mom was like, Bonnie, you're getting fat, and I would be like, oh my God, like I can't believe she's saying this to me. No,
Yeah.
but now I'm so happy.
Stating facts being offensive to people is
Yeah.
so
Yep.
bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Like, how is saying something that is true, objectively true, offensive?
Yeah, and it's not like
Yeah.
she was saying it in a mean way. And like I'm sure
Fat
there are people
people know
with
they're
parents.
fat.
Yeah. Well, there are probably people with parents who are like being unrealistic, like they're not really actually fat, or even if they are getting fat, they're saying it in a mean way. Like I'm sure that you can do that, like be like, oh my God, you're such a lazy freaking
Well, yeah, those
fat.
are terrible parents.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole separate issue.
Yeah,
there
yeah.
needs to be balance, and I think children should be hopefully taught healthy habits.
Yeah.
And I think it can be brought to someone's attention in like a positive way, or like, I don't know, there's because even sometimes like compliments can be negatively, can affect people negatively mentally.
Yeah.
Like I know some people, someone was telling a story about how like sometimes like, oh my gosh, you look so skinny, like you look so good, can sometimes be a bad thing. Like one girl was saying that she had cancer. She had stomach cancer, and people kept complimenting her on her weight loss, and she was like, I'm dying.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm not taking, you know what I mean? So it was kind of just like,
It's also kind of like it's
I
her
hope she said
opinion on
that.
how to feel.
I hope she said that to them.
I hope she did too.
Yeah.
She didn't like specify that in the podcast.
Public
but-
niceties are terrible when people are like, how are you? But they don't actually care.
Yeah.
I think people should start being like, I'm terrible. And then
Yeah.
maybe people will stop asking when they don't care.
Maybe like something like weight is different. Like I would never just be like, even if I noticed, I can't imagine. I would not say like, oh, you look so good, you look so skinny. Like I feel like I've never said that. I feel like I would never say that. But if it's something like, oh, I just couldn't possibly know that, like I try not to even tell people anymore when I'm like, oh, you look like this celebrity, because like somebody got offended once.
Yeah.
Like how can I possibly know? I think she's pretty.
When I'm complimenting people, especially on physical appearance, I try to like be very like specific and true with my words.
But it's like you
Or-
could not possibly know if like somebody's gonna be like, yeah, I hate my nose, so thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a them problem.
I don't compliment people's appearance unless it's like a thing. Like, I like your earrings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like your
that's a
sweater.
good point.
Your
I
eyeshadow
find
looks
myself
great,
telling little
like-
kids a lot. Like, I'm like, oh, you're so pretty to my friend's little daughter.
Yeah.
And because
I tell my daughters too, yeah.
But then I wonder if like the parents are going to think that's weird. Like, or parents are going to be like, I don't say that, you know? Like, I don't know. So that's the thing that like my brain immediately says. Like, I'm just like, oh, you're such a pretty little girl. But I don't say it to really people I see. I don't know. Because like people are just so freaking sensitive nowadays.
Yeah.
But we were talking about this book review. And it is on this topic we're talking about, I swear. It's called Filter World, which is a great name for the world that we live in. It's just, I never understood filters really either. Like, maybe on Snapchat when it's like a silly one, it's like, oh, look, me and my friends are like sitting here drinking and here's us with the dog face filter, but not the type of filter that is like, it's me, but like if I was pretty. Like, what?
Yeah, those are weird.
So weird. Like the fake eyelashes that are so obvious. And like,
they're all so obvious.
it's just so
It's
bad.
almost worse. It's like just post a real picture of yourself.
Just post a real picture of yourself. And like, everybody knows. It's the same thing I feel like as like lip filler and all other fillers. It's like everybody
we
knows.
know.
And it doesn't make you look better. It makes you look insecure. Like super insecure. It says that back in the 19th century, a quasi-magical force seemed to govern Americans' everyday lives. Electricity. That tantalizing new scientific discovery took on a mystical role in the American imagination. The popular vision of electricity was a pulsating mystery, the secret to human life and progress, discovered and harnessed as, I don't know that word, inchoate energy. Yeah, whatever. For Henry Adams, it was a moral force, analogous to how the early Christians felt the cross, as well as a despotic master. Whoa. A host of pseudoscientific self-help techniques soon sprang up with jargon-laden terms such as personal magnetism and electrophysiology, and the promise of the age-old goals of health, beauty, and prosperity. Today, the American imagination has a new technology to imbue with that sacred power, the algorithm. Like electricity, an esoteric combination of mathematical precision and human decision seems to govern all aspects of our internet-suffused lives. As Kyle Shanka suggests in Filter World, the algorithm has taken on the character of a near spiritual mystery, a force that we do not entirely understand, but that increasingly shapes the decisions we make or think we make. And Jay Noon talks about this a lot, our host on Thursdays, about how nowadays basically the algorithm, if you're looking at Twitter every day, if you're looking at TikTok every day, whatever, the algorithm can affect people's choices. And I totally believe that. It's like they'll show you something that makes you angry during a specific time in your life. You know, they can like push people to like be violent and crazy.
Oh, I'm sure.
Mr. Shaka, a staff writer at The New Yorker, explores the tension between our perceived online freedom and the increasing homogeneity of our Instagram-saturated world. And that's one thing that the alternative title that I didn't read talked about. It said that it has dulled culture, and I totally can see that. It's like, I feel like I've lived in so many different states, and it's like in every state I went to high school and kids were saying, damn, Daniel, you know, and it's not like that's a bad thing or something. It's just like they basically had like this internet culture that most of them were more interested in than like, living in the mountains.
Well, and it is kind of strange that children from like across the entire, like from completely different geographical areas are like saying the same things.
Exactly.
It's very unnatural.
Mm-hmm. I think it's weird.
I can't really say whether it's good or a bad thing, but
right.
My hunch is that it's maybe not great.
I do think it's weird. It's like all of these little kids, like my little brother who's 10 will text me like, bruh, look at this. And I'm like, why are you saying bruh? Like he just says it because internet kids say it, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It says, as he, the author, points out, the internet seems to offer us a dizzying array of choices. We now have at our fingertips a near infinite list of products to buy, music to listen to, and films and books and memes and to dedicate our limited attention span to. The music thing, how could that be anything but good? Today, I took a break from what I was doing and was just listening to music, and I was like, the fact that this is like nearly free, like I could probably listen to Like a Prayer by Madonna for free. But I was listening to that and I was like, the fact that this is just available to me at a touch of my fingertips is like, there is no price you could put on music. It's so freaking amazing in so many different ways. So yeah, it's not a bad thing. 603-283-6160. We'll get into what this author is trying to say about our world because of the internet and social media. But you can call in with whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project to have a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Every month, 10% of the mining rewards go into a treasury. Anyone with one Dash to spend can put forward a proposal to the Dash masternodes. The masternodes vet the proposals and decide which ones move forward and are funded by that treasury. Nowadays, DAOs are plentiful, but Dash paved the way by doing it first, nearly a decade ago. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. Dozens of people are dead after a Russian military plane crashed near the border with Ukraine. 65 captured Ukrainians were on board the aircraft heading to a prisoner exchange. Russia accuses Ukraine of shooting down the jet, which Kyiv hasn't denied. With more details from Moscow, Daria Bondarchuk reports.
The head of the Russian Parliament's Defense Committee, Kartapolov, said that Ukraine was informed about the route of the plane carrying prisoners of war. He said another jet with 80 more Ukrainian servicemen on board, which was flying after the downed plane, was turned around. Prisoner exchanges with Ukraine might be put on pause.
This as the head of the British Army wants the UK public to be ready to fight if war breaks out with Russia. Simon Gaitans in London.
In a speech on Wednesday, General Sir Patrick Sanders called the current British population a pre-war generation in an ominous forecast. The outgoing head of the British Army took the opportunity to warn of the need to take essential steps to place society on a war footing as global tensions mount, saying that while regular armies start wars, citizen armies win them.
The UK's Ministry of Defence insists there are no plans for conscription. Elsewhere, the Iraqi government's strongly condemned US strikes targeting sites used by Iranian-backed militant groups in the region. The United States says its proportionate actions were in response to attacks against US and other international forces in Iraq and Syria. In Gaza, heavy fighting continues between the Israeli army and Hamas. 500,000 Palestinians have been ordered by Israeli troops to leave the southern city of Khan Yunis and move even further south, according to the United Nations. 9 people were killed and scores injured by a blast at a UN compound there on Wednesday. Almost 2 million Gazans have been displaced across the Strip since the start of the war. Weeks of mediation by Qatar and Egypt with US involvement have brought no breakthrough of a new ceasefire or a hostage release deal. Roughly 40 people have died in a fire that started in a basement of a shop in the Chinese city of Xinyu in the country's southeast, and 6 people have died in a plane crash in Canada's Northwest Territories. Lastly, US presidential hopeful Nikki Haley's vowing to press on with her campaign in the wake of a second consecutive loss to current frontrunner Donald Trump. The former UN ambassador and governor lost to the former president in New Hampshire in a primary vote, part of the process to pick the nominee for the Republican Party to take on Joe Biden for the White House, as Nick Harper explains.
It's all over here in New Hampshire, and in many ways it feels as if the Republican primary season is over as well. There is an air of inevitability that Donald Trump will now become the party's nominee after a big win in Iowa and now a second win in New Hampshire. His rival, Nikki Haley, says that she is not giving up. She says she is just getting started and intends to challenge Trump in the next big state contest in South Carolina in a month's time.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSM.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. In 603-283-6160 is the phone number. You can call in and bring up whatever is on your mind. That's 603-283-6160. And I wanted to tell you that Free Talk Live is brought to you by Fork Fest, happening June 13th through the 16th at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, so there is no ticket cost and no one is in charge. For more information and to connect with other attendees, you can visit the unofficial website, forkfest.party. That's forkfest.party. And with you in the studio tonight on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori, and Nikki.
And in the last segment, we were talking about just basically... We were talking about how people are really insecure and use the internet for silly reasons, like to feel better about themselves. Like, oh, I feel so pretty when guys are liking my picture that is literally not me at this point. It's like a voodoo doll that kind of looks like me because I face-tuned giant hips or something like that. Like face-tuned myself looking completely different in some way. There's that. And also apparently people are using it to look for freedom. And this, I totally believe that people are doing this. It's like, if you are not content in the now, like most people will find a way to escape the now, and sometimes it's like drugs. But a lot of times I think it's social media. And anytime I've like caught myself being that way, like, oh, I want to go like fulfill some fantasy. Like my brain it's not thinking that like straight up, but it's like a feeling or something. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go like look at some social media. Like whenever I feel myself like that, I'm like, yeah, I got to log off. Like I can go like weeks without like Twitter if I feel like it's like taking over my life or like not letting, like I'm like not in them now. I'm spending too much time on it, stuff like that. But apparently people are using social media as this kind of escape. It says that, as the author points out, the author of Filter World, the internet seems to offer us a dizzying array of choices, unlike in your real life, where you can only really do one thing at once. We now have at our fingertips a near infinite list of products to buy, music to listen to, and films and books and memes to dedicate our limited attention span to. At times, the internet can seem like a manifestation of our desires, reshaping itself in accordance with our clicks and likes. But such freedom is illusory. More often than not, Mr. Sheikha tells us the power of algorithms lies in their ability to denature our capacity to choose. From the news headlines that we are prompted to see, the music that streaming services play for us, and the ads that follow us like shadows across the web, Filter World, for Mr. Sheikha, is a flattened universe of consumer acquiescence, no less standardized than the Instagram photo editing tools that lend the book its name, filters. So basically that's all I really wanted to read about this article. Like I don't want to get into the entire book review or anything, but it was related to what we were talking about. People, checking out of real life, wanting to look like, a fox instead of a human being.
Do ads make you want to buy things?
Me? Yes, sometimes.
They do?
Once in a while.
It depends on what it is.
I've never seen an ad that I've been like, oh, now I want to buy that.
Usually it's food for me. It's like, now I want pizza.
Yeah. Sometimes Amazon has now they have recommended buy things. But it's normally something I needed, and I'm like, oh, I forgot I needed that, but it still works.
Yeah.
If I would have never, it was the last one that got me was the back scrubber things. Because I like to exfoliate, but I'm going through a lot of Dead Sea salt. And Matt was like, you should buy one of those things. And Amazon was like, I got you $10.
But what about something you didn't know about before? I think
that's what I'm saying. Like an ad that's not something you're already looking for.
I think that I don't get hit by those only because of the fact that I watch so much just people living their lives. I like to watch that where if I'm just chilling out, one thing I like to watch is people living their lives content.
Yeah.
And they'll talk about what they use, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that sounds great, I'm going to use it. So it's not an ad, but it kind of is.
I'm also not a huge consumer. I don't want anything really. I don't really want to buy anything, and I'm very specific with the things I do buy. I research them and I'm like absolutely certain like this is the exact one that I want.
Me too.
So if I find an ad for something, I'm probably not going to buy that one because that one's not going to be good enough. But maybe I would buy a different one.
For me, it's now that I'm asking or thinking about it because you asked this question, I feel like for me it's mostly at people's suggestions, like not people I know in real life, but like these random people like that I follow on Twitter or like watch on YouTube or something. It's not always necessarily like beauty products. Like I got convinced on Twitter that I need like a shower filter. I had Ian do the research on which one. So it's not really the same thing. Like I can't think of a time I watched an ad for something
but
other than
that wasn't
food.
someone's like paid, like they weren't sponsored by them. They were just like,
I
hey,
feel like it wouldn't
use
matter
this
either
thing.
way. Like it could happen to me either way. It's like if they're like I am sponsored, but this is a really good blah blah blah. I still might be convinced. I don't know.
I don't know what companies are spending these advertising dollars on if they don't. It doesn't actually work.
And that's the thing, like normally they'll do it after you've already been looking into something. So it's like I already bought that.
Yeah.
Why are you sending me ads? Like
like I bought
don't
a toilet lid.
Yeah, I don't need another one.
And they're trying to sell me another. Like how many do you think I need? Just the one.
Just the one.
I get a lot of ads when I play Angry Birds because I just play that a lot while listening to like any video where I don't need to see it or listening to any audiobook.
Are those tailored to you or are they like totally random?
I think that they're totally random. And I was just going to say, like, I'm just sitting here trying to think if any of them ever made me want any of that stuff. Like, sometimes it's other games and I'm like, I will never play another game other than the Angry Birds because it's a perfect game and I'll play it for the rest of my life. But the other thing is, like, Disney World. Like, it's obviously not tailored to me. Yeah, they just advertise Disney World and that's never going to work on me.
That's like so random.
If I was going to go somewhere, I'd go to Busch Gardens in Virginia. Like, I would not go to Disney World.
Angry Birds advertisements?
Yeah, it's like...
Send her advertisements for Busch Gardens, not Disneyland.
Well...
Idiots.
It's just like, I think you're right that it's not as effective as people act like it is.
Yeah, but that's why companies will pay for it because, like YouTube doesn't pay. Like people used to make big money off YouTube, not anymore. So now people need sponsors. But that's why companies are more like AG1 is a huge one that like everyone I follow on YouTube promotes.
What is that?
But it's like a green powder, like vitamins and stuff. But that's why companies will pay these influencers or content creators so much money because that works better than the ads. You know what I mean? Like
from an actual person.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm watching every single one of Karia and Nate's videos. I'm more likely to take their word for it than someone else's. And because they're getting commission, they have incentive to make a really kick-ass like commercial in the middle of their YouTube video that's like funny and relatable. So then people are like, whoa, you drink AG1 every day? Like, look at how like pretty this girl is, or look at how healthy she looks. Like, I'm going to do that. So I think that style of advertising works a lot better than just like the generic
You feel like you know
form.
them. I did buy a Sam and Colby shirt, so I guess that counts. It's not really like they're advertising something else. They're just like, buy our merch.
Yeah.
And they're in Zoomies now, so I went in there and looked at them and I was like, okay, I actually really like this one, so I got it. And I have never bought anyone's merch ever before, but Sam and Colby are just the most amazing people. They're ghost hunters. I've mentioned them on the show before. But we have this story from the AP. A pastor in a small Ohio city are in a tussle over the legality of his 24/7 homeless ministry. And it's just like, how could you possibly argue the government's in the right over this? So stupid. A Christian church in Ohio filed a federal lawsuit this week after its pastor was charged with violating city ordinances when he opened up the sanctuary around the clock for homeless people and others to find shelter. This is just, it's so bad.
Why is that against the law?
It should not be against the law. It's so bad. It's probably going to be something like fire codes. It's fire codes, Lori. But it shouldn't be illegal. But we do have a caller online. It looks like we have David in New Mexico. David, what's on your mind?
That hold is too short, Bonnie.
That hold was too short. I'm sorry. Did you need more time to think?
No. I got the thinking covered. It just I was picking my nose and I needed more time to get that booger out.
Ew.
So, yeah, next time maybe instead of 1 second hold, maybe like 7 or 8 seconds will do. I can get them boogers out in that amount of time. It's no problem.
Well, the time before that, you were mad that she holded for too long and that you only had like 5 minutes.
Oh,
It's
really?
a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Well, it's male prerogative to be mad about whatever you want to be mad about, Nikki.
Okay. We'll let you have that.
Men are mad. Okay.
Men are mad, yeah.
We'll let you be mad.
And bad. Crazy man. This is your captain speaking. What questions did you have about maintenance?
On an airplane?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a mechanic?
No, I'm an airline transport pilot.
Really?
Uh-huh. You can go to the FAA's website and look up my name.
Whoa.
David from New Mexico.
Yeah, David from New Mexico. Why isn't it popping up?
Yep.
No, I know his last name. I won't say it on there. But
we've seen the picture.
So
how often are they? How often is a plane inspected?
Speedo. What?
How often is a plane inspected? Is it after every flight?
Well, yeah. Well, something's being inspected after every flight, before every flight, during every flight. It's just there's 1,000 different things that get inspected, and they all have a different calendar time frame. And so what you're talking about is the maintenance, not stuff done by the pilot, but stuff done by the maintenance. And it's called what they call progressive maintenance. And so instead of doing the whole thing every year, every half year, whatever, they're just constantly going over it and over it and over it. And so lesser things are inspected more frequently. And then as you get into the deeper and deeper parts of the airplane, they're done a little bit less frequently because they're harder to get at, and they generally don't need to be done every day, every week, every month. And so every different part of the airplane has a different maintenance schedule on that progressive maintenance plan. And they're just constantly throughout the course of the year going over every aspect of the airplane. Why that door plug got missed? Obviously, there's a flaw in their maintenance plan regarding that component.
So would you say that that's something that you think would get checked every single flight?
No, that would be something that would get checked. And I'm pulling this out of my rear end. That would get checked, once a month, once every other month, once every third month. At the least, it would get checked once a year, which is sufficient if it was properly installed in the first place.
Right.
There's no. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. So that means that they never, the airline probably never checked this because of the fact that it was a problem from manufacturing.
So when a brand new plane comes to an airline or whatever, they don't do an initial check of the entire plane?
Well, yes and no. Their progressive maintenance plan begins immediately. They take delivery of, theoretically, coming from the factory, everything is kosher because the manufacturer has their own maintenance plan. I mean, you're building the airplane is basically the maintenance plan, and they have a punch card, a checklist. They check everything off before they deliver the aircraft to the buyer, and then the airline takes possession of it, and they immediately begin their progressive maintenance plan.
Okay, but they just trust that the manufacturer did everything right because they don't do a whole entire inspection of it.
I don't know for sure. I'd have to speculate. I doubt that an airline takes delivery of a brand new airplane and then keeps it grounded until they've gone over every maintenance aspect of it. I believe that they probably put it immediately into service, like I said, beginning their progressive maintenance from day one. So the airplane flies for a day, and these things get checked, and the airplane flies for a week, and these things get checked, and the airplane flies for a month, and then these things get checked, and then 2 months, and 3 months, and 6 months, and 1 year, and it's just constantly being gone over in a cycle like that.
So, yeah, well, thank you for giving the expert testimony on that, because we were just kind of guessing. But, yeah, if people know what he's talking about in the first hour, I think we were talking about the Boeing airplane from Alaskan Airlines that their door flew out mid-flying, and oh, my God, that is so scary. Thank you for the call, David. And I hope that Boeing gets, either fixes their problems or ends up just like going out of business. It looks like we have another caller, unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey, I was just calling about your the article you guys were just reading about.
The one about the church.
Yeah. The church. Yeah.
So do you know anything about this?
Oh yeah, it's like a town over.
Oh
from
wow.
where I live. Basically, the dude, just like little piddly things that he didn't get done. I know one of the big things was he had bought a gas dryer, didn't have it hooked up right, so carbon monoxide and stuff was leaking into the house. So,
whoa.
But no, yeah, a lot of it's just like little piddly things. So where if you're going to have people stay, follow these ordinances.
Wow. Yeah, it seems kind of crazy considering these people have no house and they're choosing to be there. And it's like they'd probably rather be somewhere where it has some issues than be nowhere or be on the street.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of these places had like negative 30-degree temperatures.
Oh,
recently.
yeah, in Midwest, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was a little cold here this last week, so.
Well, thank you so much for the call. Let's get into the rest of this article. It's really, I think, messed up, the government, what they're doing, like going after this man at all. It's like, why don't you just help? Why don't you offer, if you're supposed to be the government that we all need for society to run smoothly, why don't you send people in to help fix the gas dryer instead of, charging this man money for trying to help homeless people? It's so stupid. It says, police this month filed 18 criminal charges. 18 criminal charges against Dad's Place Church pastor Chris Avell over allegations the rented church building located next to a separate homeless shelter along Main Street in Bryan, Ohio, a city of about 8,000 people, was violating the zoning ordinance, lacked proper kitchen and laundry facilities, and had unsafe exits and inadequate ventilation. An attorney for Avell and the church, Jeremy Dyes, said he thinks city leaders don't want the ministry in the middle of the town, describing it as a not in my backyard issue, and accusing officials of inventing problems. Nothing satisfies the city, Dyes said Monday, hours after the lawsuit was filed, and worse, they go on a smear campaign of innuendo and half-truths. Wow, it's like they just don't want to see these homeless people. Maybe the homeless people like walk around on Main Street during the daytime when they're not in the church, and they're like, oh, we don't want to see these homeless people, like this guy, he's giving us problems by trying to help them. During an initial meeting with the federal judge and lawyers for Bryan on Tuesday morning, both sides agreed to maintain the status quo, Dyes said. As a result, he said the church will remain open to those who seek its religious services until at least March 4th, when the judge will consider its request for an injunction against the city. Avell, who pleaded not guilty in municipal court January 11th, said his church wants to welcome anyone regardless of the time of day. I truly believe that everyone who walks through the door of Dad's Place walks out a better citizen, Avell said in an interview Tuesday, adding that closing down the around-the-clock ministry would lose what is actually a beacon of light downtown. And it's just like, oh, like that's such a sad freaking thing to think of. The government getting rid of this place where people go in, probably receive actual ministry, have a place to go, feel, comforted by other people that are caring about them. Like, imagine thinking you're the good guy in this situation. I just can't.
It's crazy.
Like, there's always these people, and I'm always on the opposite end. There are always people who are like, most government workers probably think they're doing something right. Who in Avell, Ohio, is standing up against this, who works for the government, and saying, like, this isn't right? Because it's so clearly not right.
Yeah.
And there's a million examples like that, but this one is just like in your face. Like,
I don't understand anyway, because it's a church, right? So there's people in it during the day, a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And at that time, it has adequate ventilation. And
he did say that the
whatnot.
city's making stuff up.
Yeah. So if there's people
As
during
they
the
do.
day and that's fine, then why is it suddenly not fine at night? It's simply because they're housing homeless people?
Yeah, but they just don't like, I think they just don't like that the homeless people are there for some reason. The defendants are the city. The defendants are the city, Bryan Mayor Carrie Schlade, and other Bryan officials. Why are they the defendants? Because they're suing the other person. Wouldn't that make the other people this... Whatever.
You'd think.
The city
I don't know
is
if
suing.
They're suing the city in retaliation against this. It didn't seem like that's what was happening, but it didn't seem like we were to that point, that they were to that point yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seems like that's something that would happen later if that was going to happen.
I didn't
don't
read
know.
anything so far that said that they're countersuing.
No.
So somehow the
what
defendants
state
are
is
the
this
city. Yeah,
again?
Bryan, Ohio.
Ohio.
But it's Bryan with a Y. We absolutely deny any allegation that the city has treated any religious institution inappropriately, said Bryan City Attorney Mark Fischel, noting that Schlade supported the church opening in the building 4 years ago.
So it does sound like they're actually suing them. That wasn't like a typo or something.
Yeah, like countersuing them, saying that they mistreated the... They didn't mention that.
No, but it sounds like, based on his statement...
Yeah, it's just like so odd that they're just suddenly talking about something without like introducing it. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it says we absolutely deny any allegation that the city has treated any religious institution inappropriately. Because it started off talking about these 18 charges the city is bringing against the church guy.
Mm-hmm.
Noting that Schlade supported the church opening in the building 4 years ago. Well, a lot can change in 4 years for one thing, and like you don't get to just say no, the church can't open in the building. So who cares that you supported it? He says the city has been and continues to be interested in any business, any church, any entity complying with local and state law. The church's lawsuit said its leaders decided in March to remain open at all hours as a temporary emergency shelter for people to go who have nowhere else to go and no one to care for them. 8 people stay there on a typical night. Okay, it's only 8. It's like that can't possibly be too many people in one building.
Right.
Like if there are 8 people in my house, it wouldn't be like, oh, the ventilation's not good enough in my house. It's got to be smaller than this church. I feel like if there were 8 people in this room who just had nowhere to go, it was like a emergency situation, like it would be fine.
It would be fine.
Yeah, like being negative degree, you know what I mean? Like being super, super cold.
It wouldn't be like, I can't breathe in here. Like that wouldn't happen.
It would be fine.
And it's not like it's a hotel. They're not charging these people.
Yeah.
They're just coming in.
No, they're probably just laying on the ground.
Right. So how can they even say you have to have all these specific parameters met
that's crazy.
for people to come in and just
And
sleep
it's like,
in here?
I'm sure these people would rather not have like adequate accommodations versus dying.
Right.
Yeah.
Freezing to death.
Mm-hmm.
Gets cold in Ohio.
What do they want? What does the city want? Like those people just go outside?
Yep.
Yeah, they just want them to die probably. I mean, that's like that's cities. They hate homeless people and they just want them to die.
Yeah.
Here it says the church's lawsuit says, okay, so yeah, the church is countersuing.
Good for them.
I feel like if I read that, I was like blanked out or something. It says it was city police officers who would bring people by, Avel, the owner of the church, said. The local hospital would call and bring people by. Other homeless shelters would call and bring people by. So it seems like the community doesn't have some kind of a problem. It's the parasite class, the government.
Well, even cops are bringing people over.
Right? Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I mean, politicians are different than cops, right? So there could be like community cops that are like, oh, you need a place to go. Like I've heard of this place,
Yeah, and it says the church's policy has been. Well, it says they would bring people by. Maybe they're like they stopped. I don't know. It didn't really give the context of that quote. It just said it was city police officers who would bring people by, like in the past. The church's policy has been to let anyone stay overnight and doesn't ask them to leave unless there is a biblically valid reason for doing so, or if someone at the property poses a danger to himself or others, according to the complaint. And it's just like it's their property. That should be it. That should be fine. There should be no question, no other talking about this. Held from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m., the church's Rest and Refresh in the Lord ministry includes Johnny Cash's reading of the Bible piped in under dim lights, and anyone is allowed to come or go. I've never even heard of that.
Johnny Cash has a reading of the Bible?
Yeah.
I knew he was religious.
Never even heard of that.
No.
It's been Free Talk Live. You can call in tomorrow if you didn't get a chance today. You can go to freetalklive.com, and social.freetalklive is back up, so you can go there as well. Thank you for listening. Peace.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So